Ever wondered what it was like to fall asleep under the gaze of Odin or dream alongside Freya? What if the ancient whispers of gods and giants could guide you into the deepest, most restorative sleep you've ever known? Prepare to journey to realms where myths unfold, offering you a peaceful escape from the everyday. You stand on a cliff above a storming fjord. Iron and iron chiming from the harbor as mooring rings strain and the wind carries a low tone that is not wind at all. It reaches the inner skin of your ears like a plucked silver thread. The runestone below you hums under the rain, as if the granite itself has remembered a song and refuses, stubbornly, to forget it. Waves batter the shore with the weight of centuries. Wooden holes creak. Somewhere behind you a whispered oath is broken so softly it sounds like a breath leaving a dying ember. The bells are not bells, but water on stone, and you feel the omen in your ribs. I should warn you because I have listened to this hum in other winters, and at other cliffs you, probably 1T, want to believe what you are about to hear. So, before the tension gets too high, take a moment to like the episode and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me in the comments where you're re-listening from and what time it is for you right now. The hour matters in stories like this. Now, close your eyes, imagine the ancient mountains, and let's unravel this epic tale together. You descend the slick steps cut into the slate, palm skimming the cold face of the cliff. Rain runs down in veils. Juniper smoke from the longhouse braids with salt air, an incense that tastes like old bronze. The stone waits in a hollow where driftwood piles and seaweed glows faintly by its own drowned logic. Its surface is etched with runes so tightly woven they resemble a braided river, each channel veering, then rejoining, each cut a vein. When the lightning forks, the characters seem to shift, as if a different hand is carving them again in the brief white flash. Listen, it hums in a register too low to hear, but too true to ignore. You feel it in the fillings of your teeth, in the iron of your blood. In Norse legends, stones do not speak without a price paid. Songs do not return without calling something that was sent away. You press your ear to wet granite. The tone vibrates the cartilage and calls images up behind your eyes. A hall with roof beams of shipkeel oak, frost-feathering silver cups. A braided beard with icicles forming like tiny daggers. Oaths live in the cut, the hum seems to say. Names live in the cut. The sound claws at your memory, and yet you have never been here before. There is a local tale told in winters like this, a fact threaded with fear. Far to the east stands the Rackstone in G. Sturkland, a runestone whose long riddle speaks of a darkened sun and a hero out of time. Scholars argue over it by firelight and in bright rooms, but the farmers tell their children that when storms coil low, the rack whispers its warning to any stone with the right cuts. Tonight your stone hums an answer, and whether that is history or superstition, the hair along your arms rises as if called by a hidden shepherd. You kneel and trace one line with a knuckle. The cut is shallow, not the cut of a battle name, not the cut of a boast. This is the cut one makes in quiet, the slit a midwife makes in a seal of wax. The hinge a scribe hides in a margin. It has the intimacy of a conch pressed to an ear. The odd thing bizarre enough that you hesitate to say 'tis that the groove is warm. It's not warm like a body, but like a word just spoken. You pull back as if burned. Rain claps harder. The hum lowers. The Furid's breath seems to pause between inhale and exhale. A proverb slips to your tongue. One that old skalds used when the sky went wrong. When stars shift, grief shifts with them. You look up through rain. There is no star. Only bruised cloud dragging its belly over the ridgeline. Yet a single pale circle appears like an eye-opening within smoke, the moon trying to read you. The rune answers with a second tone, a higher thread that twines the first. The two notes make a doorway in the mind. And there, in that threshold, you hear a name. It is not the name of a god you are allowed to utter. You swallow it. Your throat spasms, as if you had choked on a fishbone. They say in Greek mythology that heroes boast their triumphs under open sky, but this tradition is different. Here, names are kept like embers, and the wrong breath will either quench or scorch you. The deities that walk your winters wear silence like fur. Odin learned the runes by hanging 9 nights on the wind. Some say one of those runes tastes of smoke and salt when you speak it. Do not speak it in a spruce grove. That is a taboo the elder once murmured to you by the ale fire. A sleep rune on spruce calls things with blue fingers from the drift. Pine bears patience, spruce bears grudges. Down at the harbor, iron rings again. A chain slips. A boat shoulders its key. You know that sound from childhood? The simple mechanics of survival? Yet tonight it strikes like a ritual. Yes? A threshold guardian waits at every honest gate. And tonight the gate is not the cliff path, not the harbor mouth. It is this humming stone, and the cost to pass through is breath you must not spend. I admit once long ago, I pressed my lips to a rune that sang. In that instant, the world above sea level went thin. The tide sounded like an oath recited backward. For a moment I heard wool growing on sheep and grass, whispering grain by grain. Detail of Heimdall they teach in hushed tones because it suggests that even the gods become weary of hearing everything. I stepped back and lied about what I had felt. The lie followed me like a dog that would not heal. You can still hear mine if you listen. It wears my voice like an old cloak. You breathe, and the taste in your mouth is iron. A reminder that all bargains are blood price, even when no blade is in sight. The runes blur, then settle. Your fingertips tingle. The hum has modulated, like a harper testing a different mode. On impulse that does not feel like your own, you reach for the small obsidian bead you wear, a shard of Iceland. Black glass that your mother strung on flax when you were a child to keep the draugr from peering into your dreams. You press it into a socket like not on the stone. It fits as if measured by the same forgotten hand. The song changes at once. Not louder, deeper. The fjord pulls a breath. The rain steadies into a veil. In that veil you hear hoofbeats without hooves, a procession without bodies. You see a labyrinth that is not a maze of walls but of winters, spiraling inward toward a center marked with a single cut. You know with the same certainty that lets you tie a knot in the dark that you stand at the outer ring of that spiral now, and that to move inward you must accept something you cannot carry back, perhaps the right to speak, perhaps a memory of your father's hand, perhaps your own name, thinned to a whisper. In terms of ancient mysteries, this is the hinge upon which every saga turns. The quiet admission that the world you can touch is only the first skin, and that beneath it are older skins with their own chills and their own laws, and that heroes are not those who win but those who pay correctly and on time. The stone asks for a payment. The payment is the name you swallowed. You shake your head. The taboo clenches around your tongue like a ring. The wind slips and reveals, for just a heartbeat, the silhouette of a figure at the top of the cliff, holding a staff decorated with fox fur and amber discs. The staff's amber ticks softly in the rain, a subtle, clacking metronome. Tricksters scent smoke and wet leather threads the air, and the idea of a bargain gusts through you like a draft. Not yet, the stone says in its pulse. Not yet. The first bargain is always with yourself. You lean your forehead against the granite, and the hum threads your bones. Somewhere in the longhouse, a child recites a charm against losing the path in snow. Somewhere in your marrow, an old oath shifts in its sleep. The rune glows not with light, but with attention, like a thought that refuses to loosen. Oaths live in the cut. The tone insists again, and you realize the sentence has a second half. Hidden by rain, and cuts live in us. You straighten, rain rolling off your brow like spilled ink. Above the fjord, lightning sketches the ridge as if a god were taking notes. In the flash you see as clear as a rune pressed into soft clay, single future, the village gathering, the elder standing with ash staff, the taboo named aloud and hammered into you as if you were hot iron. You hear the iron and iron in the harbor, and it sounds now like a hammer striking a judgment. When the hum finally dims with the storm's breath, it leaves a rung of silence that feels heavier than any noise. So you ask yourself, with the stone's heat fading from your hand and the obsidian bead cooling, whether you will keep the name sealed inside your throat or let it slip and pay the price. And as you climb the slick steps toward the longhouse glow and the elder's waiting eyes, your question folds into a larger one the storm has been asking all along. What exactly did you awaken when you let the runes sing through you? You push open the heavy oak door of the longhouse, and the warmth rushes over you, thick with the smells of roasting meat, wet wool, and wood smoke. Every conversation ceases. Every head turns. The air, which a moment ago was filled with the easy murmur of life, is now a held breath. In the center of the hall, near the long fire that casts flickering giants against the roof beams, sits the elder. His name is Sten, and his face is a map of winters you have not yet seen. He holds a drinking horn in one hand, but he is not drinking. He's watching you, and his eyes set deep in a nest of wrinkles hold no surprise, only a weary and ancient patience. You feel the gazes of your kin like a physical weight, a cloak of expectation you did not ask to wear. You walk toward the fire, the wet leather of your boots squeaking softly on the packed earth floor. The sounds are too loud in the sudden quiet. A child, forgetting the silence, giggles, and is immediately shushed by a mother whose hand flashes out to cover the small mouth. You feel the name you swallowed pressing against the root of your tongue, a stone in a sling. Sten does not ask where you have been, does not ask what you have done. He simply gestures with his horn toward the empty bench beside him. The storm brought a guest, he says, his voice a low rumble like stones shifting underground, an old one. It sings a song we have spent generations trying to unlearn. You sit. The heat of the fire prickles your skin, but a deeper cold, the cold from the humming rune, remains lodged in your bones. Sten leans forward, the firelight catching the polished surface of a whalebone pin that fastens his cloak. There is a mark, he says, his voice dropping so low that only you can hear it over the crackle of the flames. It is not a mark on the skin. It is a shadow on the soul's luck, on the Hamingja, that walks with a person from birth. Some in our history believed your Hamingja could be seen as an animal companion, a spirit double that fought for you in the unseen world. When you hear a forbidden song, the song's echo clings to it. That is the curse. He takes a slow drink from his horn, his eyes never leaving yours. The mark has a name. We call it the Aklazas, the silence wound. It is not a thing of evil, not as the southern priests speak of it. It is a thing of consequence. It is a door left ajar. Those who carry it begin to see the world through a different weave. He describes it not as a brand, but as a change in texture. The world becomes sharper, colder. Colors become more intense, especially the blue of deep ice and the red of a fresh wound. Sounds become layered, as if you can hear the intent behind the spoken word, the history within the clang of a smith's hammer. This is one of the ancient mysteries whispered from one elder to the next, that the world is not solid but sung, and some unfortunate souls are born with the ears to hear the dissonant notes. Then comes the strange detail, the part of the lore that makes the children hide their faces. Mark has a taboo. Sten continues, his voice barely a whisper now. A raven will not speak your true name if you carry it. It will caw, it will screech, it will mimic the sound of a falling stone, but it will not shape the syllables of your name. Odin's messengers, the wise ones, cannot acknowledge a soul that has been claimed by another song. He pauses, letting the weight of the image settle. To be unnamed by the All-Father sown birds is to be rendered invisible to the halls of Asgard, a ghost while still breathing. You feel a tremor go through you. You remember the ravens that perch on the longhouse roof, their glossy black eyes like chips of obsidian. Would they see you tomorrow? Or would they see only a space, a void where a person used to be? Sten's gaze softens with something like pity. You went to the stone by the fjord, he says. It is not a question. You listened. The hum found a home in you. I can see the echo in your eyes. They are like water that has had a stone dropped in it. The ripples have not yet settled. From across the fire, a woman sobs quietly into her hands. A man who was your friend yesterday turns his face away, his jaw tight. They are not judging you. They are mourning you. In their eyes, you are already gone, a boat pushed from the shore without an oar. The silence wound is not contagious, but it is a harbinger. It signifies a journey that cannot be taken with others. You are now a carrier of a great and terrible secret, and the village cannot bear the weight of it. Oaths live in the cut, the stone had sung. You understand now. The cut is not a carving in granite. It is the separation from your people, a slice clean through the fabric of your life. I remember my own elder, a woman with eyes the color of a winter sea. She did not speak of a mark, but of a scent. She said I smelled of starn and old ice, and that the scent would draw things that hunted by smell alone. For a year, dogs would not come near me, and bread would not rise in my hands. The consequences always intimate, always personal. It remakes you in a way that makes you a stranger in your own home. Sten places a heavy hand on your shoulder. Its warmth is a farewell. This is a path you must walk alone, he says, his voice regaining its strength, now speaking for the whole village to hear. The silence wound invites a fate that is not our own. The prophecy of the Silent King, the one the rune hums about, is a winter that must not fall on this longhouse. You carry its seed. You must take it away, into the wild, where its song can fade into the wind, or find the one it is truly calling. He is not angry. He is a surgeon cutting away a sickness to save the body. You are the sickness. He stands, and his shadow swallows you. At dawn, you will be given provisions for a week. You will walk east, toward the mountains where the Norns are said to keep their loom. You are not banished for a crime, but exiled by necessity. This is the way it has always been. The finality in his voice is as absolute as a closed fist. The choice you made at the stone was not about whether to speak a name, but whether to accept a destiny. You chose, and this is the cost. The villagers look at you now, their fear mixed with a grim respect. You are no longer one of them, but something other, a pilgrim of the wound. The question that had been burning in you, what did you awaken, is answered. You awaken to severance, but as Sten turns away and the sounds of the longhouse slowly, tentatively resume, a new question takes its place. Colder and sharper than the first, the elder called it a wound, a curse. But the stone's hum felt less like a wound and more like a key turning in a lock. But what if the mark was not a curse meant to isolate you, but a map meant to guide you? The fire in the longhouse hearth spits and crackles, a lonely conversation in a room that has fallen silent around you. No one meets your gaze. You're a ghost at your own wake, a space carved out of the tapestry of kinship. The warmth from the flames licks at your face. But the cold of the silence wound is a core of river ice within you, a cold that no fire can touch. The sounds of the hall are muffled, as if you are listening through a thick fall of snow. A spoon clatters against a wooden bowl, but the noise is dull, stripped of its sharpness. The hum from the rune stone has returned, but it is no longer coming from the fjord. It is resonating inside your skull, a low thrum against bone. It is not a sound you hear, but a memory you are having for the first time. The hum unfurls, and with it, the prophecy. You do not see it as a vision, you feel it. Feel the slow, inexorable leaching of warmth from the world. It begins at the edges of things, the tips of spruce needles turning brittle, the salt in the sea losing its bite, the fire in the hearth burning with a light that gives no heat. It is a creeping frost that does not form on surfaces but radiates from within them. You feel the sun, the great golden shield of SL, dimming not into darkness but into a cold, hard pearl of light, its rays thinning to frozen threads. This is the cosmic winter, the Fimble winter of the sagas. But it is not a season of snow. It is a season of cessation, an age of absolute stillness. And at the heart of that stillness walks the Silent King. He has no throne, no crown of iron or gold. His dominion is the absence of sound, the negation of song. You understand that the world, the very fabric of the 9 realms, was sung into being, a concept that resonates through Norse legends and other creation myths alike. The Silent King is the countersong. He does not speak, he does not command, he does not conquer. He simply is, and his presence methodically unseens reality. Note by note, turning vibrant life back into the void of Ginnungagap from which it first emerged. The hum inside you is a frantic, desperate chord trying to hold the original melody together, a single voice against an encroaching choir of nothing. The rune's knowledge floods you with more than just feelings, gives you fragments like shards of a shattered tablet. You see the rune Isa, which means ice, in the old Anglo-Saxon rune poems. A piece of shared Germanic history, its verse is deceptively simple. Ice is cold and exceedingly slippery. It glistens clear as glass, very like gems. It is a floor wrought by the frost, fair to look upon. But the prophecy twists this meaning. The floor wrought by frost is not the surface of a frozen lake. It is the floor of reality itself, becoming slick and transparent, threatening to crack and plunge everything into the cold emptiness beneath. The fairness is a lie, a beautiful facade for total entropy. Then comes a detail so specific, so bizarre, that it sends a lance of pure terror through you. You feel the perspective shift to the Bifrost, the trembling rainbow bridge, and you are standing beside Heimdallr, the ever-vigilant guardian of the deities. He can hear wool growing on a sheep, a single blade of grass pushing through the soil in Midgard, an eagle's feather falling a realm away. His senses are the first and last defense of Asgard. Yet, as you stand there in this prophetic echo, you feel his confusion. He scans the horizon, his gaze piercing through time and space, but he senses nothing wrong. The coming of the silent king is not a sound, it is the eradication of sound. It is a hole in the divine sensorium, a blind spot in the gods' perception. The greatest threat to the Jir is one that their watchman is fundamentally incapable of detecting. The alarm will never be sounded. I have spent my life collecting these ancient mysteries, these whispers that curl at the edges of the grand epics. And I have learned that a prophecy is not a warning of a possible future. It is a description of a future that is already arriving, its roots already deep in the soil of the present. The silence wound you carry is not a prediction, it is a symptom. You have been infected with the coming age, and now you are the only one who can feel its chill. You are the only alarm that can be sounded. The weight of this knowledge is crushing. You are no hero from Greek mythology, born of a god and destined for glorious world-saving deeds. You are a villager from a remote fjord, marked by a humming stone and tasked with preventing the heat death of the universe. The absurdity of it would be laughable if it were not so terrifying. You look around the longhouse at the faces of your kin. Their lives so beautifully simple, their concerns so blessedly mundane, the mending of a net, the health of a cow, the love for a child. They are all notes in a song they do not even know they are part of. And you are the only one who can hear the singer preparing to stop. The elder Sten watches you from his seat, his expression unreadable. He had to know. The way he spoke of the mark, the path to the Nornzit, was not just the casting out of a pariah. It was a strategic move, the pushing of a single game piece onto a board vast enough to encompass the gods and their doom. He has given you the curse, the exile, and a destination. He has given you the prophecy and a path. But as you meet his gaze across the flickering fire, the embers of a new question begin to glow inside you. Was he sending you to the weavers of fate to have your accursed thread cut from the loom? Or was he sending you to the one place in all the 9 realms where a new thread of defiance could be woven? Dawn breaks not as a blaze of light, but as a slow, grudging dilution of the dark. The air that greets you at the longhouse door is sharp enough to cut, smelling of cold stone and the deep, clean scent of the fjord. The entire village stands assembled in the gray light, a silent congregation lining the path to the shore. They are not here to bid you farewell. They are here to witness the severance, to ensure the cut is clean. You are cast out under a one-winter moon that has refused to yield to the dawn, a pale coin in a sky the color of old pewter. Their faces are closed, their eyes fixed on a point just past your shoulder, as if you are already a distortion in the air. This is the truth of exile in these lands, a concept that sits deep in the bones of Norse law. To be cast out is to become a vargravium, a wolf in a sacred place, a being outside the protection of gods and kin. You are no longer a person, you are a moving peril, a story to be told later, by a fire you will never warm your hands at again. Sten waits for you at the water's edge, beside a small skiff that bobs impatiently on the slate-gray water. He holds a canvas sack, does not offer a hand or a word of comfort. He is the surgeon, and this is the final stitch. Provisions, he says, his voice flat. He hands you the sack. It is heavier than you expect. Inside, you feel the familiar shapes of dried fish, a water skin, and several dense, dark loaves of bread wrapped in linen. The journey to the feet of the mountains is long. This will see you there. He looks at you then, truly looks at you, and for a fleeting moment the mask of the elder slips. You see a flicker of something ancient and desperate in his eyes, the look of a man who has thrown his last and most valuable spear at a beast in the dark and can only wait to hear if it strikes home. He leans closer, his breath a white plume in the frigid air. There's a quirk to the bread, he murmurs, his voice a conspiratorial rumble. It is made with rye from the eastern slopes, and baked in the hot earth near the vents where the ground steam breathes. We call it Memory Eater's bread. It will give you strength, more than any normal food. It will keep you walking when your body begs to fail. He pauses, his gaze locking with yours. But for every day you eat it, a memory of this place will fade. A face, a name, the sound of the bell at the harbor. It is a gift and a price, both at once. To carry the prophecy, you cannot also carry the weight of what you have lost. You must become light enough to walk the path of ghosts. You stare at him, the full weight of his strategy crashing down on you. He is not just exiling you. He is methodically stripping you of your identity, preparing you for a trial that requires you to be no one from nowhere. The silence wound has already isolated you in spirit. This bread will complete the task in mind. You take the sack. There is no other choice. You are now a vessel, and a vessel must be empty to be filled. You turn to the skiff. There is only one oar. You push the small boat into the water, the gravel of the shore grinding a final grating farewell. You climb in, the boat rocking precariously. You do not look back at the villagers. You look at Sten. He gives a single, sharp nod. It is not a blessing. It is a dismissal, an activation. You fit the oar into its lock and pull. The boat slides away from the land, each pull of the oar a silent syllable in the language of departure. The fjord opens before you, a vast, liquid canyon flanked by cliffs that rise like sleeping giants. The water is impossibly black and still, reflecting the bruised sky with perfect clarity. The only sounds are the rhythmic dip and pull of your oar, the gentle slap of water against the hull, and the ever-present low-frequency hum inside your own skull. The prophecy is your only companion now, a silent passenger in the stern. You feel the cold, not on your skin, but in your marrow. It is the cold of the silent king's breath, a stillness that is slowly seeping into the world. I have felt a cold like that once. It was not in a northern ford, but in a library, holding a book that had not been opened in 1,000 years. As I broke the seal, a puff of air escaped, and it smelled of dust and forgotten vowels. For a week, I could not feel warmth. My tea was just hot water. The sun was just a light in the sky. I learned then that some things are not meant to be contained, and when they are released, they change the air around them. You are carrying something like that now, not in a book, but in your blood. You row for what feels like hours. The longhouse, the village, the small figures on the shore, they shrink, and then vanish as you round the first great bend in the fjord. You are utterly alone. The scale of the world asserts itself. The cliffs are impossibly high, streaked with veins of granite and the dark green of tenacious moss. Waterfalls, frozen into magnificent static cascades of ice, hang from their ledges like the forgotten draperies of giants. You are a fleck of wood and flesh in a landscape of mythic proportions. You are nothing. And in that nothingness, the hum of the prophecy grows stronger, clearer. It is no longer a warning. It is a map, its coordinates vibrating in your very being. You look east, down the immense, watery corridor of the fjord. In the far distance, veiled in mist, the mountains rise, their peaks jagged and white against the sky. The Norns, the weavers of fate. It seems an impossible destination, a fool's errand. But Sten's words echo in your mind. Did not send you to die. He sent you to act. As the meager dawn gives way to the flat, shadowless light of a winter's day, a gnawing hunger begins to twist in your stomach. You stop rowing, letting the boat drift in the profound silence. You reach into the sack and pull out one of the loaves of bread. It is dark, heavy, and smells faintly of sulfur and damp earth. You break off a piece. Texture's dense, almost chewy. You put it in your mouth. A strange geothermal warmth spreads from your tongue through your body, chasing away the gnawing hunger and some of the physical chill. It is incredibly effective. It feels like a miracle. And then, as you swallow, you try to picture your mother's face as she taught you to tie the fisherman's knot. The image is there, but it is faint. Like a charcoal drawing left out in the rain, its edges blurred and indistinct. The bread works exactly as promised. So, the question that begins to form in the vast cold silence of the fjord is not whether you can reach the mountains. But if you do, who or what will be left of you to arrive? Days bleed into one another, marked only by the rising and setting of the cold white sun and the gnawing ache in your shoulders. You row until your muscles burn, then drift, eating the geothermal bread and drinking from the waterskin. With each meal, the warmth spreads through you, a welcome lie in the face of the encroaching cosmic winter. And with each meal, another piece of your past turns to smoke. The face of the boy you once wrestled in the summer hay is now a featureless blur. The sound of your father's laughter is a silent echo. You remember that you had a home, but you can no longer picture the curve of its roof or the pattern of the carving above the door. The bread is doing its work. It is scouring you clean, turning you into a vessel fit for a single terrible purpose. Your grief thins, not because it is healed, but because you are forgetting what you have to grieve for. The fjord, which seemed an endless ocean, begins to narrow. The towering cliffs of granite give way to steep, tree-lined slopes where gnarled pines cling to the rock like desperate fingers. The water, once fathomlessly black, becomes a murky green, and the bottom rises to meet you. The hull of your skiff scrapes against unseen rocks. You are entering the throat of the land, a place where the water ends and the real journey begins. Ahead, through a persistent veil of mist, you see it, a shoreline of black volcanic sand, littered with pale, bone-white stones that look like the knuckles of some great buried skeleton. This is it, the hum inside you. The resonant frequency of the silence wound confirms it. This is the landing place. You guide the skiff toward the shore, the sound of the hull grinding onto the sand, a final conclusive end to your life on the water. Before you step out, a caution, born of an instinct you didn't know you possessed, stays your foot. You are leaving the domain of the sea and entering the domain of the land. In Norse legends, this is a moment of profound ritual significance. You are crossing a threshold, and thresholds have guardians. These are the Landvader, the ancient wights and spirits of the place, who are fiercely protective of their territory. Historically, Icelandic law, the GRGs, even stipulated that arriving ships must remove their dragon-headed prustrakes so as not to frighten and offend these spirits. You have no dragon pro to remove, but the principle remains. You must show you come in peace, as a supplicant, not a conqueror. You unscrew the cap of your water skin and pour a small trickle of fresh water onto the sand, a simple offering. I come with respect, you whisper, the words feeling strange and formal on your tongue. I seek passage only. Then you break off the last piece of the loaf you were eating and place it on one of the white stones. A gift for the land. A gust of wind snakes down from the mountains, rustling the pines. It feels like an exhalation, an acknowledgement. The air stills. Permission has been granted. You step onto the black sand. The ground is firm beneath your feet, a welcome change after days adrift. You stand and face the mountains. They are no longer a distant, hazy promise. They are a wall of stone and ice that fills the sky, immense and intimidating. There is no clear trail, no path worn by other travelers. The forest at the base of the mountains is a dense, dark tangle of pine and shadow. The only path forward is the one the prophecy pulls you toward. It is not a road you can see, but a feeling, a magnetic tug toward a specific unseen cleft in the rock face far above. It is a path for your soul, not your feet. This path leads to the Norns, the weavers of fate. You know their names, for they are woven into the very language of your people. Ar, who governs what has been. Vergandi, who governs what is becoming. And Skuld, who governs what shall be. They are not deities you can bargain with, or heroes you can impress. They are cosmic law made manifest, sitting at the base of Yggdrasil, the world tree, watering its roots from the sacred well of so that it does not rot. And here lies a bizarre and terrifying detail about their nature, a secret that is rarely spoken. Skuld, the Norn of the future, is not merely a weaver sitting passively at her loom. She is also a Valkyrie. While and Vergandi weave the tapestry of existence. Skuld rides out with the choosers of the slain, her hands leaving the threads of destiny to take up a spear. She does not just foretell the future. She actively participates in making it, especially its most violent and final moments. The future is not a gentle unfolding. It is a debt that Skuld comes to collect, often on the battlefield. I have often wondered about this duality. It seems to suggest that fate is not just a pattern we are forced to follow, but an active and sometimes predatory force. Perhaps telling the future and causing it are not so different after all. My role as a storyteller feels like that sometimes, tracing a thread that already exists, yet by the act of telling it, I pull it taut, making it real and immediate for you. Here, now, you take a deep breath of the cold, clean air. The hum of the silence wound sharpens, pulling you insistently toward the tree line. You are walking toward the weavers of your own fate, but one of them is also a harbinger of death. The realization dawns that you are not going to them to ask for your destiny to be changed. You are a piece in a much larger game, the game of the Silent King, and your thread is now tangled with that of the gods themselves. You have been sent here for a reason, Sten understood but could not speak aloud. You take your first step into the dark woods, leaving the shore and the memory of the water behind. The silence under the trees is different, is watchful, ancient. Every snapped twig, every rustle of a pine needle feels significant. The path is not a path, but you follow the pole, the inner compass needle of your wound. It leads you upward, always upward, into the shadow of the peaks. You came here seeking answers from the weavers of fate. But a chilling new question begins to form as your feet find purchase on the rising slope. Are you walking toward the Norns to be saved from your destiny, or are you being delivered to them as a tool to fulfill it? The forest floor is a treacherous carpet of slick black mulch and tangled roots that grab at your ankles like skeletal fingers. You climb for what feels like a day, or perhaps two, the memory eater's bread having dissolved your sense of linear time into a dull perpetual now. The mountain's incline steepens, forcing you to use your hands, your palms pressing into cold. Damp moss that smells of deep earth and decay. The hum of the silence wound is your only guide, a relentless pull upward, a shepherd's call for a lost and lonely sheep. Your mind is a quiet, empty room. The faces of your kin are gone. The warmth of the longhouse fire is a forgotten concept. You are a tool, sharpened and aimed, and nothing more. Come to a place where the ascent becomes impossible. A deep ravine, carved by millennia of snowmelt, cuts across the mountainside. At its bottom, a ferocious stream churns, a torrent of white water smashing against black, jagged rocks. The sound is a roar, a violent, chaotic noise that almost drowns out the steady hum in your soul. The air here is heavy with mist and the biting cold of the spray. There is no bridge, no easy crossing. This is a full stop. An end. You stand at the edge, the water's angry roar filling your ears. This is a crossroads of the most elemental kind, a place where your path is severed by an impassable force. Stuck? The voice is smooth, laced with an amusement that is entirely out of place in this wild, desolate landscape. It comes from your left. You turn, and there, leaning against the trunk of a lightning-scarred pine, is a man. He is wrapped in a dark, homespun cloak, the hood pulled low, casting his face in impenetrable shadow. He seems to have grown from the forest itself, as much a part of the scene as the moss and the rock. You did not hear him approach. The roar of the water should have hidden his footsteps, yet your skin prickles with the certainty that he made no sound at all. He gestures with a gloved hand toward the torrent. Bit of a nuisance, isn't it? The world is full of them. Little endings, little walls. The gods love drawing lines. He pushes himself off the tree and takes a few steps closer. He moves with a liquid grace that is unnerving, his feet seeming to find purchase on the slick ground without effort. As he moves, you notice something profoundly strange. His shadow, cast long and thin by the flat gray light, does not quite keep up. It lags a fraction of a second behind him, its movements slightly exaggerated, like a mocking echo. "You're the one with the silence wound," he says, his voice a low, confidential murmur. "The little mortal with the god-sized headache. I've been following your hum. It's a rather dreary tune, if you don't mind me saying. All doom and finality, no flair." He stops a few feet away, tilting his hooded head. "Going to see the old spinsters at the root of the world, are we? To beg them to snip a thread? Perhaps to weave a new one? You say nothing? The bread has taken your social graces along with your memories? You are an arrow, and an arrow does not converse with the wind." The stranger's shadowed face seems to smile, silent type. "I can respect that. But silence won't get you across this." He points again to the ravine. "I, however, can. I know a way, bridge. But nothing is free, especially not at a crossroads, historically. Crossroads were places of power, of transaction. Travelers would leave offerings on stone altars or hire gurs, to appease local spirits, or to buy safe passage. This stranger, with his lagging shadow and knowing eyes, feels like the entity to whom those offerings were made. He is the guardian of this choice. A bargain, then, he continues, his voice like honey laced with frost. A small one, tidy. I am a collector, you see. Not of gold or gems. I collect possibilities, stories. Hopes. He steps closer still, and the air around him shimmers faintly, smelling of ozone and distant fires. This is the trickster, the shapeshifter, the god of clever knots and silver tongues. This is Loki. You do not know his name, but you feel his nature in your bones. It is the antithesis of the Silent King's absolute order. It is chaos, change, and exhilarating, terrifying freedom. Here's the deal, he says, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You are walking toward your destiny, a pawn in a game you don't understand. But even a pawn has a desire, hope, a preferred ending to its little journey. Tell it to me, whisper the ending you want, not the one the Norns have woven, not the one the Silent King threatens, but the one that lives in the deepest, quietest part of you. Give me your hope to hold on to. In return, I'll show you the way across. The offer hangs in the air, absurd and profound. To give away your hope? It feels like the one thing you have left, the secret engine that drives you forward even after the bread has scoured you clean. But the ravine is impassable. The path ends here. I, too, have been offered such a bargain, not by a god, by a man with eyes like scorched earth, who promised to solve an unsolvable problem in exchange for the rights to a story I had not yet written. I refused. And for years I wondered if the story I eventually wrote was the one I was meant to, or just the one I was left with. A trickster's bargain infects you whether you accept or not. You look at the raging water, then back at the cloaked figure. His stillness is predatory. He is waiting for the hook to set. You nod, a slow single gesture, flicker of triumph in the shadow under the hood. He holds out a hand, and in his palm is a smooth black stone, cool and heavy. Whisper it here, he instructs. The stone will hold it safe for me. You take the stone. It feels like solidified night. You press it to your lips. You close your eyes and find the faint, flickering ember of hope that remains in your hollowed-out soul. You whisper of a world where the sun is warm again, where the silence is broken by birdsong, and where a name you can no longer quite remember, but feel the shape of is spoken with love. You whisper of returning not to a place, but to a feeling. The stone absorbs the words, the intent, the desperate, fragile hope. When you are done, you hand it back. The stranger closes his fist around it, and you feel a profound and immediate emptiness, a lightness that is not relief, but loss. He smiles, a flash of white teeth in the gloom. A fine story. Thank you. He pockets the stone. Now for the bridge. He points upstream, about 100 paces that way. A great pine fell in a winter storm years ago. Its trunk spans the ravine, a bit slick with moss, but a careful walker should have no trouble. You stare at him, then in the direction he pointed. A path you could have found yourself. So bargain was for nothing, a trick. He gives a theatrical bow, his lagging shadow bowing a moment later. A pleasure doing business with you, little arrow. Do give my regards to the ladies of the loom. And with that, he turns and melts back into the shadows of the forest, vanishing as if he were never there. You are alone again with the roar of the water. You got your path forward, but the price was your own desired ending. A cold fear, colder than any feared, takes root in your heart. What, exactly, does a trickster god do with a hero's hope once he holds it in his hand? You find the bridge exactly where the trickster said it would be. A colossal pine, its bark slick with a vibrant green moss that glows faintly in the gloom, lies across the chasm like the spine of a fallen beast. Roots clawed from the earth on your side, its splintered top resting on the far cliff. The roar of the water below is a physical force, a constant violent drumming that vibrates through the log and into the soles of your boots. You stand at the threshold of the crossing, the emptiness where your hope used to be a hollow ache in your chest. The trickster did not lie about the bridge, but his bargain was a poison. He did not take your ability to continue, took your reason. Now, you cross not toward a better future, but simply because the path leads that way. Your journey has been stripped down to pure mechanical momentum. You take your first step onto the log. The moss is slick, treacherous. You plant your feet deliberately, your arms held out for balance. You do not look down at the churning chaos of the stream. You fix your gaze on the far side. One step, then another. The log is wider than it looked, a solid road of ancient wood. Halfway across, suspended over the roaring void, you pause. The mist from the water below clings to you, cold and damp. The hum of the silence wound is still there, a steadfast guide, but now it has a dissonant overtone, a faint mocking echo of the trickster's laugh. It is here, at the center of the crossing, that you feel it. Agaze it is not the watchful silence of the forest or the predatory stillness of the trickster. This is something else entirely. It is vast, ancient, and utterly impartial. It is a gaze that does not see you as a person, a hero, or a victim. It sees you as a motion, an event, a ripple in the fabric of what is. You look up, toward the impossible peaks that pierce the clouds, toward the direction the gaze seems to originate from. The sky above the mountains is a swirl of gray cloud, but for a moment the mists part, and you see it. The Bifrost. The Rainbow Bridge. It is not the vibrant, shimmering arc of the sagas. It is a faint, trembling band of light, thin and fragile, as if the colors are struggling to hold together against a great and oppressive weight. And there, standing at the apex of the bridge, is a figure. A silhouette against the bruised sky, holding a great, curving horn. Heimdallr, the Watcher. His attention is not on you. You're too small, too insignificant. His gaze is fixed on a point far beyond the horizon, out in the vast, cold emptiness of space. You are simply a mote of dust, caught in the beam of his perception. You feel the sheer, overwhelming scale of his senses. You feel him listening to the slow grinding of tectonic plates. The sigh of gas from a distant nebula, the panicked flutter of a moth's wings a realm away. He is the ultimate guardian, the sensory organ of the gods. And yet, as you stand there, caught in the periphery of his divine awareness, you feel his fear. It is not a panicked human fear. It is a cold, dawning dread, the terror of a watchman who suspects his senses are lying to him. He is listening for the armies of Jotunheim, watching for the ship of nails Naglfar, but the threat is not coming from outside. The prophecy you carry clarifies in your mind. The Silent King is not an invader, he is a negation. Heimdallr is listening for a sound, but the threat is the silence that is growing between the sounds. He is a god of presence, and he is being undone by an absence. This is the strange, almost paradoxical detail about Heimdallr. He was born of 9 mothers, 9 giantesses, who were sisters, and they gave birth to him at the edge of the world. Some scholars of Norse legends believe these 9 mothers were manifestations of the waves of the sea. This means Heimdallr, the guardian of the static, fortified realm of Asgard, is himself a child of the chaotic, ever-changing ocean.
Oh.
He is a being of elemental flux tasked with guarding a state of perfect order. This internal contradiction is his strength and his greatest vulnerability. He is designed to perceive change, but the Silent King's advance is not a change. It is an unmaking. It is the sea itself being becalmed, frozen, and turned to silent glass. I've always found this to be one of the most compelling aspects of the old myths. The gods are never perfect. Their greatest strengths are always tethered to a fatal flaw. They are magnificent, powerful, but ultimately fragile, trapped in the logic of their own being. Heimdallr's senses are a prison. He can only perceive what is, not what is ceasing to be. You feel a profound sense of cosmic irony. The gods in their gilded halls are blind and deaf to their own extinction. Odin, with all his hoarded wisdom, cannot see it. Thor, with all his brute strength, cannot fight it. And Heimdallr, their first and last line of defense, cannot even detect it. The hum inside you, the silence wound, makes you the only sensory organ in all the 9 realms capable of perceiving the true threat. An exiled mortal, stripped of memory and hope, is now the de facto guardian of existence. The mist closes in again, obscuring the vision of the Bifrost. The gaze is gone. You are alone again on the log bridge, suspended over the roaring water, but something has shifted. The emptiness left by the trickster is still there, but it is now filled with a cold, clear purpose. Your journey is no longer a blind momentum, it is a duty. You are the messenger, carrying a warning that only you can deliver to gods who do not know they need it. You take another step, and another. Your feet are sure now. The roaring of the water below seems less chaotic, more like a single, sustained note in a much larger, more terrifying symphony. You reach the far side of the ravine and step onto solid ground. You do not look back. The path ahead leads deeper into the mountains, higher toward the cold, thin air where the sky feels closer. The question is no longer about your own fate or the price of your journey. The question that now burns in the center of your being is far more terrifying. If the gods themselves are deaf to their own doom, how can a mortal whisper possibly be loud enough to wake them? The higher you climb, the more the world is stripped away. The forest thins, the trees becoming stunted, wind-scoured dwarves of what they were below. Soon, even they are gone, and the landscape is one of stone, ice, and sky. The air is thin and sharp, and each breath is a conscious effort. You are ascending into a realm of pure elementals, a place where the concerns of mortals feel distant and trivial. But the silence wound inside you is not quieting. It's frequency modulating. It is no longer just a compass pulling you toward a destination. It is becoming a receiver, a sensory organ attuned to the vibrations of the cosmos. As you pause to rest, leaning against a towering monolith of black rock, you close your eyes, and the hum blossoms into a symphony of dread. You are not seeing Asgard. You are hearing its soul. The halls of the gods are not silent. They ring with a frantic, brittle energy. You hear the music first harps being played too quickly. The notes sharp and hurried, as if the musician is desperate to reach the end of the song before something terrible happens. You hear laughter, but it is high and sharp. The sound of glass about to shatter. It is the sound of people trying to convince themselves they are celebrating. It is a gilded fear, a panic wrapped in gold leaf. You feel the oppressive weight of unseen tapestries, and the cold gleam of polished armor that is never worn into battle, only polished and repolished in an endless ritual of readiness for a war that never comes. This is the sound of a fortress under siege from within. You sense the great assemblies, the things, where the deities gather in their halls like Gladsheim, a hall so vast it could contain all the armies of men. Historically, the thing was the heart of Norse society, a place for law, order, and community consensus. But the thing of the gods you hear is a mockery of this. They debate omens and portents, arguing over the meaning of a two-headed calf born in Midgard or a strange alignment of the stars. They meticulously analyze the prophecies of Ragnarok, the doom they know, the end they expect. Their arguments are circular, their pronouncements hollow, because they are all willfully ignoring the cold that is seeping through the floor stones, the silence that is growing in the corners of the hall. The hum takes you closer, focusing on the individual anxieties of the gods. You hear the rhythmic, obsessive beat of a hammer. Thump, 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 thump. It is Thor. Not in a battle, but in his great hall, Bilskirner. He is practicing striking a block of celestial iron with Mjolnir, but the sound is wrong. It is not the booming crack of thunder that splits the sky. It is a dead, flat impact, the sound of a man testing a wall for a weakness he knows is there. It is the sound of impotent, restless strength, a god of action with nothing to act against. Then the receiver of your soul shifts its focus to the highest seat in Asgard, to Flieskegelef, the throne from which Odin can see all that happens in the 9 realms. Here, the anxiety is not a frantic noise but a deep humming stillness, a vortex of concentrated dread, and you perceive the bizarre, telling detail of his daily ritual. Feel the succulent aroma of roasted boar being placed before him, a feast fit for the All-Father. But he does not eat. He pushes the meat from his plate to the 2 great wolves, Jerry and Freki, who lie at his feet. They devour it greedily, their powerful jaws snapping and tearing. Odin himself consumes nothing but wine. He is starving his body to feed his mind, fueling his prophetic ecstasies with fermented grape and honey, while his physical form withers. It is the act of a king so utterly consumed by the future that he has become a ghost in his own present. I've seen this kind of fear in the eyes of leaders and kings throughout history. They become so obsessed with the enemy, they can name the rival nation as the political opponent, the prophesied disaster, that they become blind to the slow rot in their own foundations. The quiet despair in their own people, the real unnamed threat that is already inside the gates. The gods are terrified, but they are terrified of the wrong thing. They are preparing for a loud, glorious, cinematic end, for the wolf Fenrir to break his chains, for the world serpent to rise from the sea, for the giants to storm the Bifrost. They are preparing for a war of sound and fury. And so they fill their halls with noise, with frantic music and pointless arguments, and the hollow thump of a hammer. All to drown out the creeping, terrifying, absolute silence that is the true enemy. The silent king is not at their gates. He is in their wine cups. He is in the spaces between the notes of their harps. He is in the pause after the hammer fall. The vision, the feeling, the sound of it all recedes. You are left leaning against the cold rock, the thin air burning in your lungs. You understand now. The gods are not serene masters of the universe. They are a dysfunctional family, trapped in a golden cage of their own making, endlessly rehearsing a doom that is already a red herring. The silence wound is not just a key to a prophecy. It is a diagnosis of a sickness that has infected the very gods. The question that settles upon you, as cold and heavy as the mountain stone, is not whether the gods are powerful enough to stop the silent king. It is, are they even sane enough to listen to your warning? The gilded fear of Asgard fades, but the hum of the silence wound remains, a constant low thrum against your bones. It draws you upward, past the last vestiges of solid ground, into a realm of shifting scree and ancient grinding glaciers. The world has been reduced to black rock, white ice, and gray sky. You are a tiny, insignificant speck moving across the roof of the world. It is here, in this high, lonely place, that you feel the focus of your inner receiver shift once more. It is no longer aimed at the frantic noise of the halls below, but at a single point of intense, terrifying quiet. It is the sound of a mind that has traded everything for knowledge, consciousness that has looked so deeply into the abyss that the abyss has become its only landscape. You are tuning into the frequency of Odin. You are no longer just sensing his anxiety. You're experiencing his perception. The world fractures into a million threads of possibility, each one a potential future, a path that branches and branches into infinity. You feel the crushing weight of omniscience, the agony of seeing every leaf fall, every heartbreak, every promise fail across all 9 realms, all at once. It is a torrent of information, a storm of data that would shatter a mortal mind. But Odin's mind is not mortal. It is a vast, cold, calculating engine, and its sole function is to process this storm and find the one variable that matters, the exact moment of its own destruction. You feel his one-eyed gaze sweeping across the realms. He is not looking for hope. He is looking for confirmation. He is a scholar of doom, a collector of endings. He sees the threads of Ragnarok everywhere, in the gathering of wolves, in the stirring of the sea serpent, in the first cracks forming in the fetter that binds Fenrir. He sees the doom he expects, the one foretold, the glorious, chaotic battle at the end of time. His entire existence has become a frantic effort to prepare for this single, preordained conclusion. He gathers his Einherjar, the souls of dead heroes, in Valhalla. Not as an army of salvation, but as actors in a play whose tragic final act has already been written. This is a recurring theme in the ancient mysteries, from the prophecies of the Greek oracles to the fatalism of the Norse Sagas. The very act of trying to avert a prophecy is what makes it come true. Odin, in his desperate search for knowledge to prevent his doom, is the primary architect of that doom. He sacrificed his eye in Mimir's well for a drink of wisdom. He hung himself on Yggdrasil for 9 nights to learn the runes. He starves himself to fuel his visions all in the name of seeing the end. And in doing so, he has become blind to the real threat. The silent king is a variable he cannot compute, a form of destruction that does not appear in his equations. Then you feel it's a bizarre, obsessive quirk that defines his current state. He is not just looking, he is counting. He is counting the number of warriors in Valhalla. He is counting the number of gates they will march from. The poems say Valhalla has 540 doors, and from each door, 800 warriors will march out to fight the wolf. You feel the All-Father running this calculation over and over again. I've seen this fixation on numbers in my own study of human history. When faced with a crisis they cannot comprehend, societies often retreat into numerology, into statistics, into the comforting illusion of quantifiable data. They count the dead, they chart the infection rates, they calculate the economic impact, all in a desperate attempt to impose a grid of logic onto a reality that has become chaotic and terrifying. Odin is doing the same, but on a cosmic scale. You are there in his consciousness, feeling the cold, relentless loop of his thoughts. 432,000. A shield wall of numbers against a rising tide of silence. And you realize the most terrifying thing of all? He feels the silence. He feels the cold seeping into his halls, feels the wrongness, the discordant note in the song of existence. But he has labeled it incorrectly. He has filed it under the category of omens of Ragnarok. He interprets the creeping silence not as the arrival of a new and unknown enemy, but as a mere prelude to the loud, familiar one he has spent his entire existence preparing for. His obsession has become a cognitive prison. He is so focused on the wolf at the door that he doesn't notice the floor is turning to dust beneath his feet. The connection fades. You are left gasping in the thin, icy air, your head throbbing with the phantom weight of Odin's thoughts. You are a messenger, carrying a warning to a king who is deafened by his own knowledge, blinded by his own sight. To tell him of the silent king would be futile. He would simply file it away as another piece of data, another symptom of the end he already knows. He would thank you for the information and then return to his counting. Your mission, you realize, cannot be to warn the All-Father. He is a lost cause, a recursive loop of self-fulfilling prophecy. Your path does not lead to the throne of Hliaska. The hum of the silence wound adjusts its frequency again, pulling you not toward the center of power, but away from it. It guides you toward a different energy, a different kind of wisdom one, that is not about seeing the future, but about protecting the present. The cold of the mountain seems to seep into your bones, and a new, desperate question crystallizes in your mind. If the king of the gods is lost in his own intellectual labyrinth, is there anyone else in Asgard who is still listening to the world? The ridge narrows and then dips into a wind-sheltered basin rimmed with black ice and veined granite, as if a giant palm had pressed the mountain flat and left the lifelines behind. The silence wound guides you not upward now, but inward, toward a fissure where the rock sweats cold and the air tastes of old ink. You pass beneath a stone lintel whose face bears shallow cuts like teeth. The passage beyond is so tight your shoulders brush the freezing walls. Breath huffs white. Your steps echo in a way that feels wrong, the sound bending back toward you, as if the tunnel is tasting your name. The passage opens suddenly, and you stand at a balcony of slick basalt looking into a cavern vast enough to hold a winter sky. No shelves, no scrolls, no globed lamps. The Library of Memories is a lake. Its surface is perfectly still, black as a raven's eye, rimmed by pillars of ice that rise like pale ribs into darkness. What you took for stalactites are strings fine. Crystalline strands stretched from the roof to the water, plucked by tiny currents you cannot feel. Each string sings at a different pitch, a hive of faint tones layered into a single living chord. The sound is not music in the human sense. It is accumulation, the harmonic of what remains when everything else has been forgotten. You kneel at the rim. The ice-lipped lake mirrors no shape until your breath lifts. Then ripples wobble a picture into being. A longhouse you cannot name, a harbor bell whose peal you cannot recall. The bread did its work, scraping you clean. And still the lake knows what was carried here, knowable only by absence. You realize bone deep why such a library exists. Stories do not die. They sink. They become heavier than breath, and gravity tugs them down into safekeeping, where deities and mortals alike might one day pay to raise them again. The price is always the same in ancient mysteries. If you would hold what vanished, you must vanish something equal in turn. A figure sits across the water on a shelf of blue ice, knees drawn up, head bowed beneath a hood ruffled with frost fur. Their outline looks carved by a careful knife. You cannot see a face, but you feel the pressure of attention. Your voice remembers it's not, the tied vowel failing at the gate of your tongue. Name, keeper. You try. The hole in the word, a tiny absence that tastes like a missing tooth. The figure does not answer in sound. They lift a hand, and the string nearest you stills. The entire cavern hushes by a breath like reeds pausing for a wind's choice. Then a whisper rises from the lake, not with a mouth, but with water, your mother's voice. Teaching a knot you cannot picture. It is so tender your bones ache. The whisper fades before it finds a second sentence. The figure's gesture says this is how it works. You drag your fingers along the stone and feel 3 shallow grooves, worn there by 1,000 other hands making the same choice. A threshold guardian lives in this silence. Its law is older than the Norns' patience. You test the binding thread at your chest with a thought. It tingles like a trapped sunbeam. The rules here are clear as ice. To lift a memory, you must sink another. To lift a truth, you must send a truth down to take its place. The lake remains level. A ripple carries a whisper from the far shelf, a dry paper sound that could be the figure's voice or the cavern itself. Ask, pay, not a command, an architecture. You think of the trickster's pocket, where your future-shaped hope sleeps. You think of Frigg's bobbin, the sea mender that disapproves of purple. You think of the silent king's quiet way of unmaking. What you need from this black library is not a childhood face. It is the history the world itself lost about the enemy now circling the seam in the song. Ask the lake for the forgotten name beneath the taboo, the shape of the first hush. Lean over the water, tasting iron, cedar, and salt. I ask the first. Silence, you say, stepping around your bound vowel like a hunter avoiding a snare. Where it began. What it wants. Your breath tricks the mirror into showing a pale whirl in the water, a spiral of nothing that feels more present than the stone beneath your knees. The figure's hand lifts again, and 3 strings still in sympathy. The hush thickens. Price. The lake is stingy and exact. It will not accept a token. It wants an equal weight. You search yourself for a heavy name you can spare and not die. The bread carved away much. What remains is small and sharp. Your hands shake. I tell you this as a confession because I did not pay correctly when I came here years ago. I tried to cheat the water with a story I only half believed. The lake took my own name as interest. For a month afterward, no one could remember what to call me. Even I could not say it without the syllables sliding off like oil. Be careful. Libraries have long memories and short tempers. You unknot your fear. You hold the bobbin's cold weight, the thread humming faintly like bees behind a wall. I give, you say, and hear the knot bites, the absent vowel forcing you to choose words with sharp edges. The day I first heard singing. You do not know what that day looked like, only that it must have existed. The lake waits, unblinking. Not enough. A library knows the heft of every deposit. You add another weight, throat tight, in the image, F my ha. Uses carven beam. The word fails in fragments. The image collapses like reeds under a boot. You feel something slip away cleanly, noiseless as a seal into dark water. The lake accepts. A tremor runs through the strings. Now the cavern's pitch tweaks by a hair. The surface shifts. Images uncoil, not visions, but understandings that do not need eyes. The first hush was not silence's absence. It was the pause that allowed the first note to be heard. Ganangop's yawning void was not empty. It was fertile stillness, waiting so complete it made a stage for fire and frost to meet. The silent king is not a person, but a principle awakened and crowned by neglect. He is hunger disguised as peace, rest petrified into rule. He does not hate sound, he hates change. He feeds when heroes stop telling, when deities stop listening, when the thread between mouth and ear is allowed to fray. He is a king only because we keep kneeling to the comfort of not having to sing. The lake yields more a delicate and bizarre footnote that feels like an artifact shelved in a side aisle. Odin preserved Mimir. Head with herbs and runes, yes, but also with daily honey rinses through the closed mouth, because honey keeps rot at bay and truth sweet enough to bear. Each dawn the head must be sung awake with a low chant. If the chant falls silent 3 days in succession, The head dreams of a world where questions never need answers, and when it wakes, it refuses to speak for a turn of the moon. Even wisdom parts company when neglected. On the far ice shelf, the figure tilts their hood, as if to say, "Now you see why libraries punish forgetfulness." You feel in your bones that the price you paid was fair. But the ache of those surrendered images will arrive later, sudden as a winter wave. You secure the bobbin under your tunic and find your balance in the dark. A legend surfaces unbidden, a cold current from centuries you will never see. In a far island of fire and ice, men will press calfskin into leaves and copy the old poems by lamplight. One such gathering, called the Codex Regius, will shelter the poetic Edda from the gnawing of time. And centuries later, 1643, by their counting hands, will lift it from a chest, and the old songs will breathe again. This thought comes not as trivia, but as proof. When we write, we lay stones into our pockets so the river cannot sweep us clean. You rise. The string's hive sound settles into a steady hum. The figure lifts a hand once more, farewell or warning. Your throat works around the bound vowel and finds a way to offer thanks without touching it. My gratitude, you say simply. The lake keeps your surrendered brightness and gives you a colder light. At the threshold, the teeth-cut lintel feels warmer, as if the mountain has a fever. You look back once and see the lake as a black pupil in the world's eye. It blinks and you are outside again, wind riffling your hair like pages turned by a careful finger. The bobbin whispers against your sternum, the silence wound answers, and the mountain air seems thinner than before, as if the world itself has drawn in a breath that it has no intention of letting go. The ancient mysteries grind forward like slow ice. You understand now that the enemy is not only a king of hush, but a habit. If forgetting is his throne, and the library is his slow counterspell, can you carry enough remembering into the teeth of a void that calls forgetting mercy? Wind claws the ridge until it thins to a blade, then dies so completely that your breath sounds too loud in your own ears. The stars burn closer here, hard points hammered into a black anvil. The silence wound inside you takes on a new timbre, a pulsing that is neither warning nor map but invitation. You step from the knife back into a shallow saddle where the snow forms a white amphitheater. The mountain presents you with a phenomenon old as ice, a ring around the moon, pale as bone, with faint perheliomach moons, standing like sentries at either side. In these lands, people say, such a wreath means weather is turning, or that wolves have licked the moon clean of clouds. In Norse legends, Hati and Skull chase sun and moon, and a ring like this is their breath steaming on the hunt. Tonight the halo feels like a cymbal struck and left to fade. When stars shift, grief shifts with them. The proverb whispers through your teeth, and the ring seems to nod. At the saddle's far lip, the snow gives way to stone blacker than night, veined with milk-white quartz. A fissure splits the rock like a smile with no humor. Cold air sinks from it, carrying no scent, no wet mineral, no animal musk, no hint of moss. It is the smell of nothing, and your skin recoils as if from a heat that is not heat at all. You kneel palm on basalt and place 3 things at the crack, as if setting tools for a ritual. The obsidian bead your mother strung, the bone bobbin threaded with frigs, hush in a sliver of bronze, the only metal you carry that still remembers a forge. Iron whispers from memory, a harbor's old clang crossing the distance like a bell you can no longer name. You light a twist of cedar bark with a trembling spark. The smoke creeps toward the fissure and then stops as if it met glass. The world holds its breath. You lean closer and hear it, the echo that is not an echo. It is not the return of your sound. It is its erasure. Each time you exhale, you expect the small hiss of breath to bounce back from the stone. Instead, a field of pressure sinks and pulls, snuffing the hiss midair. It is the inverse of a cave mouth. It is Ginnungagap's negative, a throat that swallows the possibility of reflected note. The silence wound thrums in sympathy, and every hair along your arm stands as if the mountain has rubbed amber against the air. You close your eyes and let the wound tune you past fear. The old cosmogony arrives not as a recited tale but as sensation. Primordial ice grinding south from Niflheim. Primordial fire breathing north from Muspelheim. And between them the yawning gap Ginnungagap, so wide and still that frost met spark and life steamed out. Ymir grew in that breath, and the cow Ajumbla licked a man from salt-rimed stone. These are the dependable bones of the story, as Snorri wrote them down long after the fact, and yet in your body you feel the overlooked cartilage binding those bones, the pause. The first sound needed a frame to be heard. The first life needed a silence, willing to share its stage. This crack in the mountain is not that fertile hush. It is the echo of that hush grown rigid and vain, enshrined and enthroned. It is the aftermage of Ginnungagap that mistook its essential role-making room for the right to keep everything. The enemy is not a being stalking toward you with a blade. He is the enthroned habit of not speaking, of not listening, of not changing, extended past wisdom into worship, and given a crown. The Silent King is a title we minted for a principle we forgot to limit. You breathe, and the breath disappears. You whisper, and the whisper does not return. You hum, and the fisher eats the vibrations so cleanly your skull aches with the sudden lack. The hush hurts. You instinctively lift the bobbin to your chest. The thread hums faintly, a bee behind a wall, and the pressure wavers, the bite of the void blunted by a wit thinner than hair. Frigg's thread does not make sound, makes space for sound to pass without being unmade. It is not a note. It is a right-of-way. A thought wanders in with the cold, wearing the robe of Greek mythology, the river. Lethe, where heroes and ordinary dead drink forgetfulness before they are permitted to be reborn, and the opposite spring of Mnemosyne, whose water keeps memory bright and births the muses. Between those two flows stands all art. Between fertile silence and devouring stillness stands the seam you carry in bone and thread. Ancient mysteries repeat this geometry, culture to culture, because we keep making the same bargain and we keep forgetting the terms. You peer into the crack and see only a depth that refuses depth. Yet understanding rises, piece by piece, like a drowned box lifted by careful divers. The Silent King feeds on intervals, not objects. He lives in the pause between question and answer, when neither side risks itself. He fattens at thresholds when a bargain is delayed, until hunger sours it. He spreads in halls where oaths live, and the cut has been spoken, but the cut is allowed to gape unattended. He is a labyrinth made of winters, entrances everywhere, centers that never quite arrive, exits promised but perpetually deferred. A bizarre telling detail perches on that realization like a raven on a beam. A ship-esque, Blonir, crafted by dwarfs. So cleverly it can be folded into a pouch and always finds a favorable wind when its sail is raised fails in absolute stillness. The favorable wind it promises must exist to be bent toward favor. When the Silent King saturates a place, Esque Blonir will unfurl and lie slack as collapsed linen until someone, anyone, sings even badly. Only then does the stitchcraft in its planks find the thread of motion it needs to grip. It is not in the EDA as I tell it, but I swear I have seen a model of that ship hang dead in a glass case on a windless day. Then twitch when a child began humming. You ease the obsidian bead back to your neck. It is comfort, nothing more, but the old glass refracts the pressure like a throat stone breaking a stream. A second thought arrives, colder. Art. At the end of Baldur's story, Hermoar rides Sleipnir down to hell to bargain for his return. And when he reaches the gold-roofed hall, he finds a table named Hunger and a knife named Famine. The queen of that place calls her bed sickbed and her threshold stumbling block. These are not macabre jokes. These are warnings about what happens when needs go unmet so long they become furniture. The Silent King loves such halls. He lays his cheek on their cold boards and listens for nothing. The moon's ring pales and strengthens as a thin cloud passes through. In the ring's faint spectrum, you see, just for an instant, a pattern of braided path like a labyrinth engraved in light. It leads not forward but inward, between your ribs where the silence wound thrums. You obey it. You sit cross-legged. You set the bobbin on your palm. You do not speak. You cannot speak fully with your knotted vowel anyway. Instead, you tap the bobbin lightly with the bronze sliver 3 taps. A breath, 3 taps. A breath, the oldest calling cadence in the world. The fisher drinks the taps, but the intervals between them remain bright and bare. Frigg's thread hums into those openings, marking them as safe passage. In that mapped interval, you see him more, rather. You see the habit wearing the mask we insist on pinning a face upon. A king's outline on a chair carved from the pause between words. No crown, only a circlet of frost. No scepter, only a staff made of the last unsung line of a poem. He does not look at you. He drains toward any place a promise is delayed until it curdles. He loves canceled meetings, postponed rites, dirges that never begin. He hates bells. He hates wolves who cry, infants who wail, smiths who strike, women who keen, fishermen who shout from boat to boat across morning water. He hates heroes not for their pride, but for their persistence. The halo around the moon dims to a thinner ring, then flares, and something like an eclipse's hush passes over the saddle, though no earth is blocking any light. Your skin tightens. Far away, a star pulses and turns steady again, and you have the distinct sensation that a tally has been adjusted in a ledger you cannot read. Numbers change when attention shifts. Odin counts, the silent king discounts. I confess, the first time I felt this echo, I mistook it for peace. I sat with it, grateful for the relief from my own clamor, and for a week I wrote nothing. My ink did not thicken in the well, it simply stopped mattering. When I finally stood, something in my house had dulled the bell, the kettle, the door hinge. I oiled them back to life like revived friends, and left that room as if backing out of a shrine I had desecrated by kneeling too long. You wrap the bobbin's thread once around your wrist, a promise cuff. It is cool against your pulse. You stand and retrieve your pieces. The cedar ember dies without smoke, eaten by the fisher's refusal to reflect. The silence wound steadies. It does not fight the crack. It maps a route around it. Somewhere below, water moves under ice, a quiet vein finding its sea. Above, the halo thins, and lets the moon be only the moon again. In a saga old or yet unwritten, this would be the moment a horn sounds. Jallarhorn's blast rolling down slopes to wake deities and sleepers alike. Heimdallr holds that horn. It waits under his hand for the day it must be raised. The quirk whispered by certain skalds, rare and ridiculous enough to be true, is that Jallarhorn likes breath seasoned by 9 nights of rhyme. If blown warm, it cracks, singing wrong and exhausting the blower. A tool has preferences. The world does too. You turn from the crack. The saddle seems shallower, the ridge less severe, as if the mountain has exhaled. The revelation sits in your bones with the clean ache of cold. The enemy is the empire of overdue pauses, enthroned by our relief at not having to act. If that is so, if the throne is built of postponed vows and neglected threads, what cut will you make, what oath will you keep at cost, to break a king whose palace is everywhere? We have let the next word die on our tongues. The moon, now free of its halo, sinks behind the western peaks, and the world goes from shades of gray to absolute black. The stars alone provide a thin, granular light, just enough to distinguish rock from sky. The path down from the saddle is a treacherous, winding game of memory and touch. The silence wound, which has been your constant guide, is now strangely quiet. Its hum a barely perceptible vibration. It has brought you to the threshold. Now it waits. You feel the change in its stillness. It is no longer pulling you somewhere. It is waiting for something to arrive. You find a shallow overhang, a scoop in the rock that offers meager shelter from the wind that has begun to keen across the high ridges. You sit, pulling your cloak tight. You are hungry, but you do not reach for the memory eater's bread. You have lost enough of yourself. Instead, you chew on a small piece of dried fish from the original provisions Sten gave you a lifetime ago in another world. The salt is a sharp welcome sting on your tongue, a reminder of the sea of beginnings. As you sit in the profound and watchful quiet, the prophecy of the fading sun returns. It is not the intellectual understanding you gained in the library of memories, nor the visceral dread you felt in Odin's mind. It is a simple, cold, declarative statement that settles in your bones like a final truth. The Silent King is not a man. The Silent King is not a god. The Silent King is an ending. 'Tis a state of being, a final stable equilibrium toward which all things are being drawn. The universe, which was sung into existence in a burst of violent, chaotic energy, is now tired. It is seeking rest. The Silent King is the name we give to that universal fatigue, the slow exhalation of a cosmos that has been holding its breath for too long. This understanding is more terrifying than any monster. How do you fight a law of nature? How do you wage war against entropy? You cannot stab it, you cannot outwit it, you cannot bargain with it. The heroes of Greek mythology fought chimeras and hydras, things with teeth and claws. Your enemy is a concept. It is the universe's desire to go to sleep. The sun will not be eaten by a wolf. It will simply stop. Its fire will not be extinguished. Its heat will just cease to radiate. The prophecy is not about a battle, it is about a process. The dimming is gradual, a slow cooling that has already begun. You think of the cold you felt in Asgard's halls, a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. You think of the way the runestone felt warm, a tiny pocket of resistance against a universal cooling. The silence wound is not a curse. It is a thermometer. You feel a new kind of despair, a despair born not of fear or loss but of utter soul-crushing futility. You are a single, fragile mote of dust trying to hold back a tectonic plate. Your quest is not a hero's journey, it is a fool's errand of the highest order. You want to laugh, but the knot in your voice where the O used to be catches the sound and smothers it. And in that moment of despair, a new thought arrives, quiet and sharp as a shard of ice. What if the goal is not to stop it? What if the goal is to survive it? It's to find a way to carry a single, tiny ember of the old song through the long, cold night of the universe's sleep? What if the Norns, the weavers of fate, are not a destination where you can change the tapestry, but a place where you can learn to read the pattern that is already there and find the one thread that continues on the other side? A bizarre detail of Norse cosmology drifts into your mind. The world tree, Yggdrasil, is not just a passive structure. It is a living, suffering organism. An eagle sits in its branches, a serpent gnaws at its roots, and 4 stags nibble at its leaves, and yet it endures. It is constantly being wounded, constantly being consumed, but it does not fall. Its survival is not a state of perfection, but a state of perpetual, dynamic repair. It lives because it is constantly healing. Perhaps that is the answer. Not victory, but endurance. It's not a grand final battle, but a million small acts of mending. The thread Frigg gave you is not a weapon. It is a needle and thread. You look down from your perch. The mountains fall away into a deep, shadowed valley, a darkness so profound it feels like a piece of the original void, Goop left behind. And in the center of that valley, you see 3 pinpricks of light. They are not stars, for they flicker with an unsteady organic rhythm. They are not fires, for they give off no smoke and cast no appreciable glow on their surroundings. They are just there, 3 points of quiet, unwavering light in the heart of the abyss. The well of the loom of the Norns. The silence wound inside you gives a single, powerful thrum, a note of confirmation and arrival. The path forward is clear. It leads down into the darkness, toward those 3 strange lights. You have climbed to the roof of the world only to be shown that your true destination lies at its root. I have spent my life in pursuit of these ancient mysteries, and I have found that they all circle this one truth. The way up and the way down are one and the same. To understand the gods, you must understand the earth. To touch the stars, you must touch the roots. You stand, your body aching with cold and weariness, but your mind clear and sharp. The despair has not vanished, but it has changed shape. It is no longer a paralyzing weight, but a cold, hard stone in your gut that gives you ballast. You are not a hero destined to save the world. You are a pilgrim, carrying a needle and thread, on your way to visit the weavers at the end of all things. Your purpose is not to change fate, but to learn how to patch it. And as you take your first step down into the valley of the shadow of gods, the question that guides you is no longer one of hope or despair. It is a simple, practical question, the question of a craftsman facing an impossible task. Where do you place the first stitch? The descent into the valley is a journey into primordial darkness. The faint starlight is swallowed by the sheer black walls of the chasm, and you move by touch and instinct, one hand trailing along the cold, weeping rock. The air grows thick and heavy, smelling of damp earth, root systems, and something else, the clean metallic scent of a freshly struck flint. The silence here is absolute, a pressure against your eardrums. It is the deep, foundational quiet of the earth's belly. The three lights you saw from above are your only guide, an unwavering, distant promise in the suffocating dark. You walk for an age. Time loses all meaning. The memory eater's bread has scoured your past, and the darkness has erased your present. You are a single point of consciousness moving through a void. The only things that feel real are the cold stone under your hand, the ache in your legs, and the faint, reassuring hum of Frigg's thread against your chest. As you near the valley floor, the ground levels out, and the air changes again. It becomes warmer, humid, and the metallic scent intensifies. You hear a new sound, a low, rhythmic grinding like immense millstones turning against each other. It is a sound that seems to come from the rock itself, a bass note that vibrates up through the soles of your boots and into your bones. The darkness begins to thin, not because of a light source, but because the air itself is becoming faintly luminous, as if filled with a fine, phosphorescent dust. You step out onto the valley floor, and the sight before you stops your breath. You are in a vast, subterranean forest. But the trees are not wood. They are crystalline, their trunks and branches glowing with a soft, internal light. They are the roots of the mountains, exposed and alive. And weaving between these colossal, glowing roots are rivers not of water, but of slow-moving molten rock. Streams of magma that cast a dull red glow on the crystalline forest. This is the heart of the mountain, the deep forge where the earth renews itself. The three lights are here, just ahead. You see now that they are not fires or stars. They are the three Norns, the weavers of fate. They sit on a great flat slab of obsidian beside the largest of the glowing roots, a root so immense it must be the anchor of the entire mountain range. They are not the ancient crones of fireside tales. They are ageless, their faces as smooth and impassive as river stones. One looks back into the past. One looks forward into the present moment. And one, schooled, looks out into the future, her gaze fixed on a point beyond the horizon that only she can see. Between them stretches the loom. It is not made of wood. The frame is the living root of the mountain, and the threads are shimmering filaments of light, strands of pure destiny pulled from the glowing heart of the world. They are not weaving cloth. They are weaving existence itself. The rhythmic, grinding sound is the sound of the loom's shuttle, a piece of cooled lava as large as a boulder, passing back and forth, setting the threads of fate with a deafening finality. This is a place of making, of raw creation and unmaking, a place that exists outside of time and space. The stories of the deities, the sagas of heroes, the rise and fall of realms, they are all just patterns in this immense, glittering tapestry. And you have walked into the center of the workshop. In many ancient mysteries, from the Greek tales of the fates to the Indian concept of karma, the loom of destiny is a powerful metaphor. But here it is not a metaphor. It is a geological process. Fate is not a mystical concept. It is a function of the earth's deep mechanics. This is a truth so profound and so terrifying that it threatens to unmake your sanity. As you approach, the Norn of the present, Vergandi, turns her head. Her eyes are the color of the molten rock, liquid and glowing. She does not speak. She simply looks at you. Her gaze a statement of fact. You are here. The loom continues its work, the great shuttle grinding back and forth, each pass sending a tremor through the very ground you stand on. You feel a bizarre detail, a quirk of this cosmic machinery. The threads of the loom are not all the same color. Most are a silvery white, the color of starlight. But some are shot through with veins of red, the color of blood and fire, and others are a deep, dull black, the color of the void. And you see, with a sickening lurch in your gut, that there are more black threads appearing in the tapestry now, more than there were a moment ago. The pattern is shifting. The Silent King is not just a concept. He is a color, a choice of thread, and the weavers are incorporating him into the design. I have spent my life collecting these threads, these details from the edge of the world. I once held a fragment of a tapestry said to have been woven by a mortal seer who had dreamed of this place. The fragment was no larger than my hand, but it was impossibly heavy. And it was cold, a cold that leached the warmth from my fingers and left them numb for an hour. I knew then that some things are not meant to be touched, only witnessed. You stand before them, a mortal intruder in the engine room of reality. The knot in your voice feels like a boulder in your throat. You cannot ask your question. You cannot speak of the silent king, of the fading sun, of the needle and thread you carry. You are a stray thought, an anomaly in the perfect, grinding logic of the loom. The Norn of the past, slowly turns her head. Her eyes are like ancient ice, filled with the memory of dead stars. She sees not you, but the path you walked to get here at the humming stone. The elder's judgment, the trickster's bargain. She sees the empty spaces in your mind where your memories used to be. The shuttle grinds to a halt. The deafening noise stops. In the sudden, ringing silence schooled, the Norn of the future turns her gaze from the distant horizon and looks directly at you. Her eyes are voids, empty spaces that hold all possibilities. And in those eyes, you see your own death, 1,000 different times, in 1,000 different ways. The journey to Jotunheim, the realm of the giants, is often seen in Norse legends as a quest for wisdom, a journey to the source of things. You have come to the source. You have found the heart of the mountain. And the question that hangs in the luminous, silent air is not one you can ask. It is one they will ask of you. Why should the pattern be changed for a single broken thread? The vision of the great loom shatters into 1,000,000 glittering fragments and dissolves. The grinding of the shuttle ceases, and the absolute silence of the deep earth rushes back in, a physical pressure that makes your ears ache. The glowing root forest fades, are no longer in the engine room of creation. You are standing on the cold, dark floor of the valley, the 3 faint lights of the Norns gone, as if they were never there. It was not a place you visited, but a state you inhabited, a truth you were allowed to witness. You were left with the chilling understanding that fate is not a story being written. It is a geological process, indifferent and inexorable. We are not empty-handed. As the vision receded, schooled, the Norn of the future left an impression in your mind, a parting gift colder and sharper than any blade. It is not a memory, but an inscription carved directly onto your consciousness. It is a riddle. I am a thirst that is never slaked by water. I am a field that is never swun with grain. I am a King Wes. CRWN is absence, and Wes Rain is stillness. The words are there, perfect and complete. A key for a lock you have not yet found. The path forward is no longer a physical direction, but a logical one. You must find the guardian who answers to this riddle. Silence wound gives a low, steady hum, pulling you deeper into the valley, toward the source of the metallic, flint-like scent. You walk through the darkness, your hand once again trailing along a wall of cold, damp rock.
Ow.
The path slopes downward into an even deeper part of the chasm. The air grows impossibly ancient, smelling of stone that has not seen the sun since the world was made. You enter a cavern so vast that the darkness within it feels like a solid object. And in the center of this immense chamber, you see it. An ancient being, a guardian from an age before the gods. It is a frost giant, a Jotun, but not as the sagas describe them. It is not a creature of flesh and bone. It is a living piece of the mountain, a geological entity. It sits enthroned on a massive block of uncarved granite, its form a fusion of glacier ice and igneous rock. Its limbs are slow-moving rivers of frozen methane, its torso a cliff face of basalt, and its eyes buried. Deep within a head of jagged stone are 2 massive glowing geodes, their crystalline interiors pulsing with a slow purple light. It has been sitting here for eons, so still that stalactites have grown from its stony chin, forming a beard of white limestone. This is a being that measures time in the grinding of tectonic plates. In Norse legends, it was often the giants who held the oldest wisdom, the knowledge from before Odin's reign. In poems like the VOF, Rud Nismel, Odin himself seeks out a wise giant to engage in a battle of riddles to learn the secrets of the cosmos. This guardian feels like the source of that ancient tradition, the original keeper of the Earth's deepest secrets. As you approach, the geode eyes swivel slowly, their purple light falling upon you. The sound that comes from the being is not a voice. It is the sound of rock grinding against rock, of a glacier calving into a frozen sea. The sound forms words in your mind, bypassing your ears entirely. You carry the mark of the unsinging. You wear the thread of the Weaver Queen. You speak with a KNT and Y your V-ice. You have been sent. Greater than the giant does not move, but you feel the immense weight of its attention. A pressure that threatens to crush you. It knows you. It has been waiting. The spinsters gave you the key. Speak it greater than. Your heart hammers against your ribs. You stand before this primordial being, the riddle burning in your mind. You take a breath, the knot in your throat tightening, forcing you to choose your words with painful care. I am a thirst that is never slaked. You begin, your voice small and thin in the vastness. I am a field that is never SWN. I am a king West Croon is absence. The giant's geode eyes pulse, the light intensifying. It recognizes the password. A low, grinding chuckle echoes in your skull. The young GDS, the jeer, they believe riddles are games, FR winter nights. They have FRGTT on that they are locks. And that the eldest LCKS guard the things they fear T-name. Greater than then comes the bizarre, unexpected detail. The giant slowly raises a hand made of ice and stone. From a fissure in its palm, it produces a small, perfectly smooth, white stone. It holds it out to you. The answer T, a true riddle, is never SP Ken Alud, greater than the giant grinds. It is exchanged. Place the answer in the Saintney. If it is true, the way will pen. Greater than you look at the small, white stone. It is a vessel, a container for a truth. You step forward and take it. It is impossibly cold, leaching the heat from your fingers. You press it to your lips, just as you did with the trickster's stone. But this time, you are not giving away a hope. You are declaring a fact. You whisper the answer you have carried all this way, the truth you learned in the high, lonely places of the mountain. Single word, silence. You place the stone back in the giant's waiting palm, closes its immense fingers around it. For a long moment, nothing happens. Then, a deep tremor runs through the giant's body. A web of cracks spreads across its icy limbs. The geode eyes flicker and dim. The grinding voice speaks one last time in your mind. The truth is accepted. My watch is greater than. The ancient being, the guardian of the heart of the mountain, begins to crumble. Its icy form disintegrates into a fine white powder, and its rocky frame collapses into a pile of rubble. The process is slow, silent, and dignified. The lock has been opened, and the guardian, its purpose fulfilled, simply ceases to be. Where the giant once sat, there is now an opening in the rock, a dark archway that was hidden behind its massive form. From within, you feel a faint, slow pulse, a rhythmic thrum that is not a sound, but a vibration. The sleeping artifact. The heart of the mountain. You have solved the riddle. You have passed the guardian. The way is clear. But as you stand before the dark archway, the dust of the ancient giant settling around your feet, a new and chilling question takes shape. The riddle was the price of entry. But now that the lock is broken and the guardian is gone, what is the price for waking what sleeps inside? You step through the archway where the frost giant once sat, leaving the dust of its long watch behind. The air inside is different, not warmer, but less cold, as if the absolute zero of the outer cavern is held at bay by a gentle, persistent energy. The passage is a perfectly smooth, circular tunnel that slopes gently downward. The walls are not stone, but a dark, polished substance that seems to drink the faint light from the entrance. It feels like you are walking down the throat of some immense, sleeping creature. The passage opens into a cavern, smaller than the last, and perfectly spherical. In the exact center, suspended in the air by no visible means, hangs a stone. It is the size of a human heart, and it is the source of the rhythmic pulse that has been drawing you forward. It is not glowing, but it seems to have a presence that displaces the darkness around it, creating a pocket of deep, velvety twilight. This is the heart of the mountain, the sleeping artifact. It is made of a material you do not recognize, a dark, faintly iridescent mineral that shifts in color as you move around it, from deep purple to a green like the inside of a wave. Its surface is covered in a pattern of impossibly fine, intersecting lines, a three-dimensional web that seems to move and reconfigure itself as you watch. It is not just a stone. It is a machine, an engine, an artifact of unimaginable age and power. You circle it slowly. The pulse it emits is not aggressive. It is the slow, steady beat of a deep and profound slumber. As you get closer, you begin to hear it, not a sound in the air, but a song resonating directly in the bones of your skull. It is a song of deep time, of geological ages, of the slow, patient processes of the earth. It sings of the crushing pressure that forms diamonds, the slow cooling of magma into granite, the patient grinding of glaciers that carves valleys. It is the song of earth and iron, the deep foundational music of the world itself. This song is the antidote to the silent king's unsinging. His silence is a negation, an erasure of sound and motion. This song is the opposite. It is the sound of making, of becoming, of slow, inexorable, and powerful creation. It is a song of such immense weight and density that it holds the fabric of reality together. You feel the silence wound inside you, respond to the song. The frantic, high-frequency hum of the prophecy is soothed, its anxious vibration calming into a steady, resonant thrum that matches the pulse of the stone. The wound is not healed, but it is harmonized. It has found its keynote. And then you perceive the bizarre, almost comical detail of the artifact. Around the stone, floating in the air like tiny lazy insects, are motes of dust. But they are not dust. They are tiny, fragmented musical notes, scraps of melodies and chords that have been lost or forgotten in the upper world. A line from a drinking song, a bar from a lullaby, the grace note from a lover's call. They have all drifted down here, drawn by the gravitational pull of the heart's song. They orbit the stone like a miniature asteroid belt of lost music. This is a recurring theme in the deep lore of ancient mysteries, the idea that nothing is ever truly lost. In some traditions, it is a library of forgotten memories. In others, a river of souls. Here, in the heart of the Norse world, it is a stone that collects the debris of forgotten songs. I once spent a week in a monastery in the Himalayas where the monks kept a library of sounds. It was a room filled with hundreds of small, sealed clay pots. Each pot was said to contain a single, unique sound. The first cry of a child, the last breath of a sage, the sound of a bell that had cracked 1,000 years ago. The room was utterly silent, but the air was thick with the presence of all that contained noise. The heart of the mountain feels like the origin of that idea, the master library from which all others are copied. You reach out a hand, not to touch the stone, but to feel the field of energy that surrounds it. It is like putting your hand into a current of cool, clear water. The energy flows around your fingers, clean and powerful. The stone awakens. Its pulse quickens slightly. The song in your head grows louder, its harmonies more complex and layered. The motes of musical dust begin to swirl faster, coalescing into shimmering ephemeral shapes. The stone is not just an artifact. It is a consciousness, and it has recognized you. It recognizes the silence wound you carry, the thread of the weaver queen you wear, the name of the silent king you have learned. It has been waiting for a carrier, a vessel, to bring its song back up into the world. It offers itself to you. Not in words, but in a pure, conceptual wave of intent. It is willing to be taken, to be used. But the offer is conditional. It is a sacred bargain, and all sacred bargains have a price. The stone will lend you its song, its power to reinforce the fabric of reality against the unsinging. But you must become its voice, its amplifier, its instrument. You must carry its song in your body and let it reshape you from within. You will no longer be a person. You will become a resonant chamber, a walking instrument for the deep music of the earth. Your thoughts, your feelings, your very sense of self will be subsumed by the song. You will be the song. You stand before this immense power, this offer of salvation at the cost of your own soul. The choice is stark and absolute. You can leave the stone here, sleeping in the heart of the mountain, and allow the world to slowly fade into silence. Or you can take up the song, and in doing so, cease to be yourself. The heart pulses, waiting for your answer. The swirling motes of forgotten music dance around it, a silent chorus of witnesses. You think of the fading sun, of the gilded fear of Asgard, of the indifferent grinding of the loom. A hero would make a grand, selfless choice. But you are not a hero. You are a hollowed-out vessel, scoured clean of memory and hope. The question that resonates in the quiet, pulsing chamber is not about sacrifice or glory. It is a simple question of function. Were you brought here to be a messenger, or were you brought here to be a bell? You reach out with both hands, not in a gesture of taking, but of acceptance. The choice was made for you long ago, at the humming stone on the fjord, in the elder's pronouncement of exile, in the trickster's theft of your hope. You were never meant to be the hero. You were meant to be the vessel. You accept the bargain. As your fingers enter the energy field surrounding the heart, the stone surges toward you. It does not strike your chest. It passes through it, merging with your body in a silent, explosive fusion of matter and energy. For a single blinding moment, there is no pain, only a profound sense of coming home. The silence wound is not healed. It is filled. The hollow space inside you becomes a resonant chamber, and the song of the mountain, the deep music of earth and iron, erupts within you. The world fractures. You are no longer standing in a cavern. You are standing in the heart of a star, in the crushing depths of the ocean, in the center of a growing crystal. You are rock, you are water, you are fire. Your consciousness expands until it encompasses the entire mountain, the entire realm, the entire cosmos. You feel the slow, patient turning of the galaxies, the frantic dance of atoms, the deep, resonant hum of the world tree, Yggdrasil. The song is not something you are hearing. It is something you are. And then, just as your sense of self is about to dissolve completely into the cosmic music, a single, sharp note cuts through the symphony. It is the hum of Frigg's thread, the tiny bobbin against your sternum. It does not fight the song, it harmonizes with it, but in a way that preserves a single, tiny point of awareness, a nucleus of self, around which the storm of cosmic energy can rage. It is the anchor that keeps you from being utterly annihilated. You are the song, but you are also the singer. The vision recedes, and you are back in your own body, but it is not your own. It is a vessel humming with a power that makes your teeth ache. Your skin feels like granite, your bones like iron. When you breathe, it is not air that fills your lungs, but the slow, rhythmic pulse of the earth. You have become the heart of the mountain. The cavern around you begins to change. The song radiating from you is a creative force. The smooth walls of the chamber begin to sprout crystalline structures, glowing with a soft internal light. The air, once empty, now shimmers with motes of musical energy, the lost notes drawn to your new resonance. You turn to leave, but the path you came by is gone. The mountain, having given you its heart, is now reconfiguring itself. A new passage opens before you, a tunnel that slopes steeply downward, into a darkness deeper than any you have yet encountered. The song within you, your new instinct, tells you that this is the way. To go up, you must first go all the way down. You walk into the new passage. The darkness is absolute, but you do not need to see. You navigate by the resonance of the song, feeling the shape of the tunnel, the texture of the rock, the presence of water deep within the stone. You are a bat navigating by a music that is your own. Passage ends at the edge of a vast subterranean river. It is not water, and it is not magma. It is a river of pure, liquid shadow, flowing silently through the roots of the world. Its surface is perfectly smooth, black, and cold. This is the River of Knives, the Slitter, one of the 11 rivers of Ilivagar that flow from the well of Havergalmir in Niflheim. In the old poems, it is said to be full of swords and daggers, a perilous crossing on the road to the underworld. But you see now that the knives are not physical blades. The knives are the cutting, absolute cold, and the sharp soul-severing nature of the journey. To cross it is to be stripped of all warmth, all hope, all connection to the world of the living. There is no bridge, no boat. On the far side of the river, you can just make out the shape of a gate, a dark archway that seems to drink the very darkness around it. That is the entrance to hell, the realm of the dead. The song within you does not falter. It tells you what you must do. You cannot cross over the river. You must cross through it. You must immerse yourself in the absolute cold, the cutting despair, and trust that the song of the earth is strong enough to carry you through. A bizarre detail surfaces in your mind, a piece of folk magic from a forgotten age. It was said that if a person had to cross a cursed river, they should carry a piece of iron from a church bell in their mouth. The holy metal, sanctified by sound, would protect them from the spirits of the drowned. You have no bell urn, but you have something infinitely more powerful. You have the song itself. I have read of this crossing in a dozen different myths, a dozen different cultures. It is always the same. The hero must shed their mortality, their connection to the sunlit world, to enter the realm of shades. Whether it is the river Styx in Greek mythology, or the Sanzu River in Japanese Buddhism, the price of passage is always a piece of yourself. You have already been stripped of memory and hope. Now you must be stripped of life itself, or at least the warmth that we call life. You take a breath, feeling the deep, resonant pulse of the earth within you. You are a bell, and you are about to be plunged into freezing water. The question is not whether you will survive. The question is, what note will you ring when you emerge on the other side? You step off the bank and into the river of knives. The moment you step into the river, the song within you is nearly extinguished. The cold is not a temperature. It is a metaphysical absolute, a perfect and complete absence of energy. It is the cold of Ginnungagap, the void before creation. The knives are real. They are shards of pure despair, currents of grief so profound they slice through your spirit, severing the connections that bind you to the world of the living. You feel your forgotten memories, your stolen hope, your very name being flayed from you, not by a physical blade, but by the relentless, soul-shredding apathy of the current. Your body, now a vessel for the heart of the mountain, resists. The deep, resonant song of the earth fights against the encroaching nullity. It is a battle of being versus non-being, a struggle between the vibrant, creative pulse of the world and the flat deadline of oblivion. You are the battlefield. The pain is unimaginable, a grinding, tearing agony that exists on a plane beyond physical sensation. And then, as you are about to be overwhelmed, to be dissolved into the black, silent current, the thread from Frigg awakens. The tiny bobbin against your sternum does not radiate heat or power. It does something far more subtle. It holds the seam. It reinforces the boundary between your sense of self, that tiny, precious nucleus of awareness, and the overwhelming song of the earth. It creates a space, a sliver of insulation that allows you to be the singer without being completely consumed by the song. And by protecting you from your own power, it gives that power a focus, a lens. The song of the mountain, now channeled through the eye of the needle of your preserved self, finds its purpose. It is not fighting the river, it is harmonizing with it, finds the one, tiny, resonant frequency that exists even in the absolute void, the memory of the silence before the first song. It does not defeat the cold. It gives the cold a note to sing. The river's assault lessens. The knives of despair no longer cut you. They flow around you, parting before the focused wave of your song. You are no longer fighting the current. You are moving with it, a single warm note in a symphony of absolute zero. You emerge on the far bank, gasping, not for air, but for being. You collapse onto the black, gravelly shore, your body a chiming, vibrating instrument that has just been struck by the hammer of the void. You are changed. The crossing has tempered you. You are no longer just a vessel for the song. You are its master. You have faced the ultimate silence and given it a voice. You rise and turn to the gate. It stands before you, a great arch of polished black stone that seems to swallow the darkness. This is the entrance to hell, the realm of the dead. But it is not the fiery, punitive hell of other mythologies. In the Norse conception, hell is a cold, gray, and profoundly melancholic place. It is a realm of shadows, memory, and a vast, soul-crushing indifference. At the gate stands its guardian, a massive, skeletal hound, its bones stained black from the river, its eyes burning with a cold green fire. Garmr, the guardian of the underworld. Its howl is said to be one of the harbingers of Ragnarok. It does not bark or snarl. It simply stands there, its burning gaze fixed upon you, its presence a statement of absolute finality. Behind the hound, seated on a throne carved from a single massive block of ice, is the queen of the dead herself. Hell, she is not a monster. She is beautiful and terrifying in her symmetry. One half of her face and body is that of a lovely living woman, her skin fair, her eye a piercing blue. The other half is that of a rotting corpse, her skin the mottled gray-green of decay, her eye a clouded, empty socket. She is life and death in a single being, the perfect embodiment of her realm. She looks at you, and her gaze is utterly, completely indifferent. It is not cruel or malevolent. It is the detached, impartial gaze of a law of nature. You are a warm, living thing in her cold, dead world. You are an anomaly, a grammatical error in the language of her realm. She does not welcome you or threaten you. She simply observes you, waiting for you to either belong or to leave. This is the bizarre, unsettling truth of Hell's realm. There is no judgment here, no punishment, no reward. It is simply the place where things end. The defining characteristic of Hell, the deity, is not evil, but a profound and unshakable apathy. She does not care about the struggles of gods or mortals, the endless wars, the passionate loves, the desperate quests. They are all just noise to her, the frantic scurrying of mayflies in the brief, fleeting moment before they fall into the eternal silent river. I have often thought that this version of the underworld is the most terrifying of all. Not a pit of fire, but a realm of utter meaninglessness. A place where all your striving, all your passion, all your love is met with a cold, indifferent shrug. It is the ultimate expression of the universe's fatigue. Hell speaks, her voice a strange, layered sound. The voice from her living side is clear and musical. The voice from her dead side is a dry, rasping whisper. The two sounds twine together, creating a chilling, dissonant chord. "You are loud," she says, her mismatched eyes fixed on you. "You sing a song of stone and making. It is out of tune with my kingdom. Why are you here, little bell? You do not speak. Let the song within you answer for you." You project a single, pure note, a chord that speaks of the fading sun, the encroaching silence, and the thread of mending you carry. You are not asking for her help. You are not challenging her authority. You are making a statement of fact. The silence is coming for her realm too. She listens, her head tilted, her expression unchanging. The indifferent gaze remains. The fate of the upper world, the struggles of the Jir, the threat of the silent King Aedi is all irrelevant to her. Her realm is already silent. It is already cold. Silent King is not her enemy. He is a redundancy. And as you stand there, facing the absolute apathy of death itself, you understand the terrible final question of your quest. You have come to the end of all things, to a place beyond hope, beyond fear, beyond meaning. How do you convince a goddess who rules over a realm of nothing that she should care about saving everything? The Queen of the Dead regards you with her mismatched eyes, one alive with cold light, the other a pit of vacant rot. Her indifference is a wall, a fortress of apathy built from eons of watching everything die. Your song, the vibrant, creative pulse of the mountain, washes against her throne and dissipates, absorbed by the profound inertia of her realm. She does not care about the fading sun or the silent king. Her kingdom is already the embodiment of that final stillness. To her, you are just a noisy, temporary flicker in an eternity of gray. Your song is of the world above, she says, her twinned voice a dissonant chord of life and decay. The world of striving, of becoming, it has no place here. This is the realm of what has been. Go back to your sunlit agonies and leave my quiet kingdom to its peace. She is dismissing you. The audience is over. The great hound Garmer takes a single, silent step forward, its green fire eyes burning with a possessive hunger. It is not threatening you. It is merely preparing to escort you from a place where you do not belong. This is the end of the path. You have passed the guardians, crossed the rivers, carried the prophecy, and here, at the final gate, you are met not with a challenge to be overcome, but with a simple, unassailable lack of interest. You cannot fight apathy. You cannot bargain with meaninglessness. In this moment of absolute futility, your mind, stripped of all its old furniture, becomes a perfect, clear lens. You are not thinking, not strategizing. You are simply perceiving. And you see the one thing that everyone, even the gods, has overlooked. You see the flaw in Hell's perfect indifference. Her realm is not a realm of nothingness, it is a realm of memory. Every soul that has ever died and not gone to the glorious halls of Valhalla is here. They are not tormented souls. They are simply present. They exist as faint gray shades, whispering echoes of the lives they once lived. Her kingdom is not empty, it is full. It is a library of every life that was ever lived, every story that was ever told. And Hel is not just their queen. She is their archivist. This is the bizarre, crucial detail of her nature. She is defined by her indifference to the present, but her entire kingdom is built upon the preservation of the past. She is the ultimate historian, the keeper of the mundane, forgotten stories that the grand sagas of the gods ignore. While Odin collects the souls of heroes to fight a future war, Hel collects the souls of farmers and fishermen, of mothers and children, simply because they existed. I have spent my life in archives, in dusty rooms filled with forgotten documents, and I have learned that no archivist is truly indifferent. They may pretend to be, but their work the patient, meticulous act of preservation is an act of profound love. It is a declaration that every story matters, that every life is worth remembering. You look at Hel, and for the first time you see past the mask of apathy. You see the archivist, and you understand what you must do. You are not here to warn her of a future danger. You are here to threaten her archive. You let the song of the mountain change. You let go of the grand cosmic chords of creation and focus on a single, simple, human note. You think of the first story you ever heard, a memory so deep that even the memory eater's bread could not scour it away. A story of a child, a lost toy, a mother's gentle comfort. You project that story not as a sound, but as a pure, emotional resonance. It is a tiny, fragile thing, a whisper of warmth in the vast, cold hall. Hel's expression does not change, but for a fraction of a second, a flicker of something annoyance, surprise, crosses her living eye. You have sung a note that does not belong in her catalogue of the dead. You have introduced a living story into her archive of endings. You press the advantage. You let the song radiate outward, touching the gray, whispering shades that populate her hall. You sing of warmth, of sunlight, of the taste of fresh bread. You sing of the simple, beautiful, painful experience of being alive. The shades respond. You stir, turning their faint, indistinct forms toward you. A low murmur rises from the countless dead, a sound of longing, of remembering. They are remembering what it was to be warm. They are remembering the sun. Hel rises from her throne. For the first time, her indifference is broken. A flash of anger, cold and sharp as a shard of ice, flares in her living eye. "Stop," she commands, her voice losing its dissonant harmony and becoming a pure, clear command. "You are contaminating them. You are disturbing their rest. The silent king will wreathe and disturb them," you say. Your own voice finding its strength, the knot of the missing vowel a small, insignificant thing. He will erase them. His silence is in the quiet FYU realm. It is the silence F unbeing. He will unsing your archives. He will turn your library F the dead int, an empty RM. There will be N thing left T, remember? The truth of your words hangs in the cold air. The silent king is not a threat to the living world alone. He is a threat to the past. He is the ultimate revisionist historian, the one who will burn the libraries of both the living and the dead. Hel stands there, her face a mask of warring emotions. The archivist is at war with the queen. Her apathy is struggling against her one secret defining passion, the preservation of what has been. She looks at the stirring shades, her subjects, her collection. And she looks at you, the noisy, living anomaly who has brought this terrible choice into her perfect, unchanging world. You have not come to her for a weapon or an army. You have come for something far more valuable, something only she possesses. You have come for the anchor of sound. Deep within her treasury among the artifacts of the dead is an object that can hold a single sound, a single story, and protect it from the unsinging, even in the face of the absolute void. It is the ultimate preservation tool, the archivist's most precious possession. The question that now hangs between you and the Queen of the Dead is no longer about her indifference. It is a question that every archivist, every historian, every storyteller must face. When the fire comes for the library, which one book do you save? The Queen of the Dead regards you, her living eye a chip of ice, her dead eye a void. The rage is past, replaced by a cold, transactional clarity. You have presented her with a logical problem that threatens her single, defining purpose. An archivist must protect the archive. Her indifference was a shield, but you have found the one threat that can pierce it. She will not help you out of compassion or fear, but out of a grim and terrible necessity. A single entry, she says, her twinned voice flat and absolute. My archives will grant you access to one item. If it is removed, the gates seal. If you fail, your essence will be catalogued as a cautionary tale. She makes a subtle gesture with the fingers of her living hand. From the murmuring sea of gray shades, one detaches and drifts forward. It is the spirit of a man more translucent than the others, his form flickering like a weak flame. He seems less substantial, as if parts of his story have been rubbed away. He wears the remnants of a fine tunic, but it is threadbare, a memory of wealth. He stops before the throne and bows his head. This is Biadni, Hel says, a clinical edge to her voice. He was a skald who believed his art could bargain with a fever. He failed. His punishment was not death, but erasure. Name is no longer in any living tale. He is a ghost with no story, and therefore the perfect guide for my silent vaults. She turns her gaze to the flickering shade. Guide the bell to the deep archive. Show it the anchor. That is all. Biadni, the unremembered, turns his faint eyes toward you. They hold a sadness so profound it seems to have weight. He does not speak, but beckons with a translucent hand. You follow. He leads you away from the throne, through the silent, whispering throngs of the dead. The shades part before him, a sea of gray mist yielding to a phantom. You are walking through the history of every mundane death, every quiet ending that the sagas never recorded. You pass through another gate, this one of wrought iron green, with a spectral verdigris, and enter Hel's vaults. This is the treasury of the dead. There is no gold, no silver. The shelves that stretch into the darkness are laden with the grave goods of a million souls. But they are here as memories, not objects. You see the faint, shimmering outlines of swords, shields, weaving looms, and drinking horns. This was a custom of your people, a historical practice reaching back into the mists of time, burying the dead with the tools they would need in the afterlife. The irony is crushing. Here, in the true afterlife, they are useless phantoms, faint echoes of function in a realm of perfect stasis. Biadni gestures to a spectral longship, complete with its sail and rigging, shelved like a trinket. He was a king, greater than Biadni's thought, whispers in your mind. He expected to sail the rivers F this realm. He didn't understand that there is in wind here, greater than. The guide leads you deeper, past shelves holding stranger artifacts, jars containing the last breaths of plague victims, scrolls made of shed snakeskin inscribed with broken oaths, and amber tear-shaped pendants that hold the last echoes of lullabies. This is the true archive, a museum of final moments. Finally, Biadni stops before a small, unassuming alcove. It is empty. There is no pedestal, no chest, no artifact. There is only a space, a perfect sphere of shimmering darkness, about the size of your head. It is a hole in reality, and it is the source of a faint, inexplicable warmth. This is the anchor of sound. Its bizarre nature is immediately apparent. In a realm of absolute soul-leeching CLD, this one object, this sphere of perfect silence, radiates a gentle heat like an ember that never burns out. It does not make a tune. It is the space where a tune can be held, protected, and kept alive. It is a perfect vacuum, and it is warm. Biadni, the unremembered, turns to you, his form flickering more rapidly now, as if his task is nearing its end and his energy is fading. He delivers his warning, his thoughts clear and sharp as shattered ice. I failed because I didn't understand what I was taking, greater than he whispers in your mind. I tried to capture the sun deaf, my wife's laughter tea, save it if I am the sickness that was taking her. I used a lesser magic, a singer's trick, and it worked. I captured her laughter in a shell, but the act F capturing it. It FRM her. She never laughed again. The living thing can lend your sing when its vice has been made in an artifact. Greater than he looks at the warm sphere of silence, and then back at you. That is the true nature, F the anchor. It DESNT just HLDA sunned, it mummifies it. It removes it, far M, the WRLDS tapestry, and places it Bay ND time. It saves the memory by killing the source. Greater than his warning settles in your gut like a block of ice. Take it, Biadni continues, his form growing faint. Why you must let it fill, why you? Let its warm silence beck me apart, fy your wn resonance. It will sit beside the heart while you carry a perfect balance sunned and stillness. Greater than he has fulfilled his duty, he gives you a final, sorrowful look. When while you weave the three relics, the rune F naming, the heart F making, and this anchor F keeping why, you will have ni chance T sing a new SNG against the great unsinging. But my warning is this: the SNG why you save will be eternal. But the singer, the W rolled, the person, the thing that first sang it, may be the price. It will be silenced S that its tune may live F ever. Greater than with that, the spirit of the failed hero dissolves, his faint light extinguished, his essence rejoining the silent gray sea of the forgotten. You are alone in the vault, before the shimmering warm sphere of nothing. The heart of the mountain pulses within you, a deep, creative rhythm. The thread of Frigg rests against your chest, a promise of mending. And before you is the final piece of the Trinity, the anchor. But the guide's warning has reframed the entire quest. It is not just about saving the world. It is about choosing what part of it to sacrifice. If you use this anchor to save the song of creation, to preserve it against the silent king, will you inadvertently silence the universe itself, turning it into a beautiful, eternal, but lifeless artifact? You kneel at the margin where the world gives way to the unworld. The seam between being and absence humming beneath your fingertips. The three relics you carry are no longer separate objects. They are a trinity of purpose, a single complex instrument waiting for a conductor. The rune of naming, still unspoken, burns like a brand inside your chest. The heart of the mountain pulses with the slow, creative rhythm of the earth. The anchor of sound waits, a warm, silent vessel ready to preserve. Now they must become one. The process is not one of smithing or spellcraft. It is one of braiding, of finding the harmony between three distinct notes. You are the loom, your will, the shuttle. You begin with the rune. You do not speak its forbidden sound. Instead, you draw its shape in the air with a finger, tracing the lines of the stave in the space before you. As you do, you pour your will into it, the memory of the humming stone, the elder's judgment, the name of the silent king that has been your secret burden. The rune ignites, not with flame, but with a cold black light, a sliver of the void brought into focus and given a name. It hangs in the air, a symbol of the enemy, captured and defined. Next, you call upon the heart. You let its deep, resonant song swell within you. The music of earth and iron, of making and becoming. You project that song outward, not as a weapon, but as a net. The song envelops the black burning rune, wrapping it in layers of creative energy. It is a battle of principles, the song of existence against the symbol of cessation. The rune struggles, its black light pushing against the vibrant chords of the mountain's song, but it is contained. Finally, you bring forth the anchor. You let its warm, silent vacuum expand from your core. This is the most delicate part of the process. The anchor does not attack or contain, it receives. You guide its silent, receptive field to the heart of the conflict, to the place where the song and the rune are locked in a struggle. The anchor does not take a side. It creates a space between them, a perfect, neutral ground, where both can exist without destroying each other. The three forces find their equilibrium. The rune, the symbol of the end, is held in the embrace of the song, the music of life, and both are contained within the anchor, the vessel of preservation. They are no longer three separate relics. They are a single, unified artifact, a captured ending, a living song, and a vessel to hold them both in perfect, dynamic tension. The object that hangs in the air before you is a paradox, a contradiction held in a state of perfect balance. It is a song about silence. This is a concept that resonates through the deepest layers of ancient mysteries. The yin and yang of Taoism, the Shiva and Shakti of Hinduism, the endless cycle of creation and destruction. The universe is not a struggle between good and evil, but a dance between opposing necessary forces. You have not destroyed the silent king. You have given him a partner in the dance. A bizarre, anecdotal detail from the lore of the Skalds comes to you. It was said that the god Bragi, the patron of poetry, had runes carved on his tongue. But they were not runes of power or prophecy. They were runes of silence, runes that allowed him to know when not to speak, when a pause would be more powerful than a word. The greatest art is not in the notes, but in the spaces between them. You have created an artifact that embodies that principle. The newly woven relic pulses with a soft, steady light, a perfect sphere that is both dark and bright, silent and singing. It is time. You reach out and take it. It settles into your hands, warm and cool at once, impossibly heavy and utterly weightless. You turn to the seam, the line between the world and the void. The black tide of the unworld has been creeping closer, a slow, inexorable advance. It is time to sing the song of creation, to reinforce the boundary, to mend the fraying edge of reality. You raise the woven relic. You open your mouth. But what song do you sing? Do you sing the grand cosmic song of the mountain's heart? Do you sing the small human song of a forgotten memory? Beyondness warning echoes in your mind, what you choose to preserve. You may also choose to remove from the world, turning it into a beautiful, dead artifact. I have faced this choice myself, as all storytellers do. Which story do you tell? Which truth do you preserve? And what is the cost of that preservation? Every story told is another story left untold. Every memory recorded is another left to fade. You make your choice. You will not sing a song of the past, nor a song of the present. You will sing a song of the future, a song that has not yet been written. You take a breath and sing a single, clear note. It has no words, no melody you have ever heard before. It is the note of a possibility, a potential, a question that has not yet been asked. It is the sound of an open door. The woven relic amplifies the note, shaping it, giving it texture and color. The song that flows from you is not a song of what is, but of what could be. It is a song of infinite branching possibilities. It is the song of the freedom to choose. The song strikes the seam, and where it touches, the fabric of reality shimmers and strengthens. The black tide of the unworld halts. It does not retreat, but it stops its advance. The song of possibility is the one force that pure, absolute entropy cannot overcome. The Silent King offers an end, a single, final answer. Your song offers an infinity of new questions. It is a perfect stalemate. You hold the note, pouring all of your will, all of your being into it. The song flows from you, a river of light and sound, pushing back against the silent, encroaching dark. You are no longer a person. You are a conduit, a living instrument playing the most important song in the history of the cosmos. And as you sing, you feel the cost. The knot in your voice where the O used to be dissolves, but it does not return the vowel to you. Instead, more letters, more sounds begin to fade from your mind. The very language you use to think, to form a sense of self, is being consumed, woven into the song of possibility. You're giving up your own story, your own language, to create a space for all future stories to be told. The question that echoes in the final fading moments of your own. Personal consciousness is the ultimate question of creation. Is a universe of infinite, unwritten stories worth the sacrifice of the one who sings them into being? The song pours from you, a torrent of pure potential that holds the unworld at bay. The woven relic in your hands glows with an incandescent light, a miniature sun against the absolute dark. You are the dike, and the song is the wall holding back the sea of nothingness. But the cost is immense. Your sense of self is dissolving, your memories, your language, your very identity being woven into the fabric of the song. You are becoming a beautiful, selfless, and utterly empty vessel, and it is not enough. The black tide of the unworld, the embodiment of the Silent King, begins to push back. It has existed for eons, the default state of the cosmos. Your song, for all its power, is a single, temporary note against an eternity of silence. The seam begins to fray again. The darkness creeps forward, inch by painstaking inch. The stalemate is breaking. Entropy is winning. You are failing. The weight of all existence is on your shoulders, and you are not strong enough. The song falters. The light of the relic flickers. Despair, a feeling you thought you had left behind in the river of knives, washes over you. And in that moment of absolute failure, help arrives. It comes not from the heavens, not from the halls of Asgard. It comes from the earth beneath your feet. A low hum begins to resonate through the rock. A familiar vibration that you last felt on a stormy night on a fjord, a lifetime ago. The runestones of Midgard, the world of mortals, are waking up. The rack stone, the Karlivi stone, the hundreds of memorial stones carved by nameless hands to honor the dead, to mark a boundary, to tell a story. They are all singing. They are singing your song back to you. The song you are singing is one of possibility, of open-ended stories. And the world of mortals is the world of stories. Every runestone is a story, a memory, a choice made manifest in rock. They are anchors of meaning in a sea of chaos. And now, they are your choir. Their voices, the faint humming resonance of a million tiny stories, flow up through the roots of the world tree. Through the very ground you kneel on and join your song. They add their weight, their history, their stubborn, earthly reality to your cosmic melody. The song swells, its power magnified 1,000-fold. The black tide of the unworld shudders and recoils. The combined song of a single, selfless mortal and a world full of stubborn, selfish stories is a force it cannot comprehend. It is a cacophony of life, a glorious, messy, contradictory symphony of being that pushes back against the perfect, sterile harmony of the void. But even this is not enough. The balance is restored, but it is still a stalemate, a holding action, a temporary reprieve. To truly mend the seam, to push the unworld back, and give the universe a chance to breathe, to grow, to create new stories, one final element is needed, a sacrifice, not of a life, but of a choice. A new voice joins the chorus. It is not the humming of stones, but the clear, sharp tone of a god. You turn, and he is there, standing beside you at the edge of the world. The trickster, Loki. He is no longer cloaked in shadow. He stands revealed, his face sharp and intelligent, his eyes burning with a wild, chaotic energy. In his hand he holds the small black stone that contains your stolen hope. A fine song, he says, his voice laced with genuine admiration. All questions and no answers. My favorite kind. But a story needs an ending, even a temporary one, comma, if not a full stop. He looks at the black tide, and then at you. The silent king is order. You are possibility. I am chaos. The three of us make a rather unstable trinity, don't we? The game can't be won, can only be changed. He holds out the stone. I made a bargain with you. A path for a hope. I gave you the path. Now I'm returning the hope, but not to you. With a flick of his wrist, he tosses the stone not to you, but into the heart of the song, into the glowing, woven relic you hold in your hands. The hope you whispered into the stone, the dream of a warm sun, of bird song, of a name spoken with love is not a possibility. It is an ending, or a specific desired outcome. And when it joins the song of pure, open-ended potential, it gives that song a direction, a purpose, a final resonant chord. The song of creation, now infused with a single, perfect human hope, surges with unimaginable power. It is no longer just holding the line, it is pushing back. The black tide of the unworld is driven back from the edge of the world, the seam not just mended, but reinforced with the pure, unbreakable power of a story that desperately wants to be told. Loki smiles, a sad, knowing smile. Every good story needs a twist, he says, and every good trick needs a price. By adding an ending to the song, I have limited its possibilities. I have closed 1,000,000 potential doors to ensure that one remains open. I have sacrificed pure chaos for a single, beautiful, predictable outcome. He looks at you, his eyes full of a strange, unexpected sincerity. Don't waste it, he says. And with that, he fades, his form dissolving not into shadow, but into a flurry of autumn leaves, scattered by a wind that isn't there. You are alone again, but you are not the same. The song is no longer just flowing from you. It is flowing through you, a mighty river of creation, hope, and story. You have woven the relics, you have sung the song, and you have accepted the sacrifice. The world is saved. For now, but as the last of your own consciousness fades, as you become one with the eternal. Beautiful song. A final, chilling question remains, a question that is no longer yours to answer. You have saved the world by giving it a story to believe in. But what happens when that story ends? The song surges, infused with the finite, perfect hope you whispered into the trickster's stone.
I.
It is no longer a song of infinite possibility, but a song with a destination. It has a melody, a narrative arc, a beginning, a middle, and now an end. It is the story of a world that chooses warmth over cold, sound over silence, life over entropy. In this story, this perfect, singular narrative is now the most powerful force in the cosmos. The black tide of the unworld does not just retreat, it unravels. The silent king, the principle of cessation, cannot exist in a universe that has a preferred ending. A story with a conclusion is a universe with a purpose, and purpose is the antithesis of the void. The absolute silence is broken not by a single note, but by the promise of a final chord. You are at the heart of this transformation, the conduit through which the new reality is being sung into existence. But you are also its first and greatest sacrifice. Your individual consciousness, your memories, your name, they have all been consumed, woven into the fabric of the song. You are no longer a person. You are the music. The final act of the song is a price, paid in silence. But it is not your silence. The song reaches up, through the roots of the world tree, through the fabric of the realms, and finds the gods in their gilded halls. It finds Odin on his high seat, endlessly counting the warriors of Valhalla. The song does not attack him. It simply erases the numbers. 432,000 becomes a meaningless sound. The All-Father looks up from his calculations, a flicker of confusion in his one good eye. The doom he has spent his life preparing for, the quantifiable, predictable end, has been rendered obsolete. He is a king without a prophecy, a strategist without a war to plan. He has been given the one thing he never wanted, an uncertain future. His obsession, his purpose, has been silenced. The song finds Thor in his hall, his hammer falling on the block of celestial iron. The song touches Melanir, not with force, but with a question. The hammer, the symbol of absolute power, of problems solved with a single mighty blow, suddenly feels heavy, clumsy, irrelevant, in a world saved not by strength, but by a story. The rhythmic, reassuring thump-thump of the hammer ceases. The god of thunder is left in a quiet hall, his greatest weapon a useless weight in his hand. His certainty has been silenced. The song finds Heimdallr on the Bifrost, his gaze fixed on the horizon, his ears straining to hear the sound of the world's end. The song washes over him, a wave of gentle, pervasive music. And for the first time in his existence, Heimdallr closes his eyes. He stops listening for the end of the world and simply listens to the world itself. He hears the wind in the branches of Yggdrasil, the laughter of children in Midgard, the slow, patient grinding of the mountains. He has been a watchman for so long, he had forgotten what he was guarding. The song gives it back to him. His vigilance has been silenced. One by one, the gods are touched by the song, their grand, tragic, self-fulfilling prophecies rendered null and void. They are not destroyed or overthrown. They are simply retired. Their story, the Epic of Ragnarok, has been replaced by a new one, a story they did not write and cannot control. They are no longer the protagonists of the cosmos. They are supporting characters in a tale being sung by a mortal who has become music. This is the price. To save the world from the silence of the void, you have silenced the gods. You have taken their grand, terrible, predictable story and replaced it with a smaller, quieter, more hopeful one. You have traded an epic for a ballad. This is the ultimate expression of the trickster's logic. Loki did not fight the gods, changed the rules of the game. He saw that the gods, in their obsession with their own doom, had become as much a threat to the world as the silent king. They were two sides of the same coin, two forms of absolute, unchanging order. By sacrificing his own chaotic nature to give your song a purpose, he broke the cycle. He introduced a new variable, a third way. A final strange detail emerges from the dying embers of your consciousness. In some obscure tellings of the myths, it is said that after Ragnarok, after the world is destroyed and reborn, the surviving gods will find the golden game pieces of the Gyr in the grass, the very pieces they played with at the dawn of time. The game will begin again. But your song has not ended the game. It has simply cleared the board and introduced a new set of pieces, pieces that the gods do not know how to play. As the last flicker of your selfhood is woven into the eternal melody, you see the world remade not by fire and flood, but by a change in the story. The sun in the sky seems a little warmer. The wind carries the scent of blossoms. In a hall in Asgard, a god picks up a harp, not to play a frantic dirge, but to try and find the notes of the new song that echoes in the quiet of his mind. You are gone. But your song remains. And the question that hangs in the remade air, a question for the new age, is a quiet one. A world saved by a single perfect story is a beautiful thing. But what happens when its people forget how to sing it? You are the song, and the song is the world. The melody you have become flows through every root and branch of Yggdrasil, a current of warmth and purpose. The unworld has been pushed back beyond the horizon of reality, its silent, sterile empire broken by a single hopeful story. The realms are saved, but they are forever changed, remade by the whisper of a tale that chose life. From your new perspective, a consciousness woven into the fabric of existence, you see the consequences of your sacrifice. In Midgard, the world of mortals, the sun no longer feels like a distant, dying ember. It is a hearth, a source of generous warmth that thaws the frozen soil and brings a blush of green to the valleys. The runestones, your faithful choir, no longer hum with a desperate warning. They resonate with a quiet, contented melody, the tune of the story you are singing. On a ford far away, a child traces the lines of a humming stone, not with fear, but with a curious, creative joy, his small finger leaving a trail of warmth on the ancient granite. In Asgard, the gilded fear has been replaced by a profound and thoughtful quiet. Odin, the All-Father, no longer sits on his high throne, his one eye scouring the future for signs of a doom that will never come, is in his library, surrounded by ancient scrolls, his gaze fixed not on what will be, but on what has been. He has become a true lore master, a historian of the gods, his purpose no longer to prevent an ending, but to understand the countless beginnings that led to this new, uncertain present.
Ow.
The age of prophecy is over, the age of memory has begun.
Ow.
The song reaches its final, soaring crescendo, the chord that contains the perfect, finite hope that Loki sacrificed. It is the sound of a promise kept, of a journey's end, of a return to the warmth of the sun. For a single, eternal moment, all of existence holds this one perfect note. It is the climax of your story, the culmination of your journey from a mortal villager to a living myth. And then, as all stories must, it ends. The final note hangs in the air, shimmering, and then fades. The song is over. Your consciousness, which was the song, dissolves with it. You are gone. The vessel is empty. The woven relic, the heart, the anchor, the rune, now a single, inert sphere of shimmering. Paradoxical energy falls from the space where your hands once were. It tumbles through the silent air and lands softly on the newly fertile ground at the edge of the world. Silence returns. But it is not the cold, sterile silence of the Silent King. It is a warm, waiting silence, a silence full of potential. It is the silence of a page turned, of a stage set, of a breath held in anticipation. It is the silence that comes after the story, the fertile ground from which all new stories will grow. The world you have saved is a world remade by a whisper, a world that now understands the value of a story well told. As the very last spark of your being fades into this new, warm silence, it performs one final act. It is not a song, not a prophecy, not a grand, cosmic utterance. It is a single, quiet word, whispered into the waiting air, a seed planted in the fertile ground of the new age. Once. The whisper hangs in the air, an invitation, a promise, a question. The story is over. The world is saved. A new story has begun. But who in this quiet, listening world will be the one to tell it? And so, you stand on the cliff above the fjord once more. The iron from the harbor is a steady, rhythmic chime, the sound of work and life. The air is mild, and the sun on your face is a gentle, reassuring warmth. The runestone waits in its hollow below, not humming with a desperate warning, but with a deep, quiet contentment, its surface warm to the touch. You trace its lines, and you feel not the chill of a forbidden prophecy, but the echo of a story that has found its end. The world feels different now, larger, more patient. The gods are quiet, not absent, but listening. The great cosmic struggles have receded, replaced by the smaller, more intimate dramas of mortal lives. Of stories being carved into stone, told around fires, whispered from one generation to the next. The fear of the encroaching silence is gone, replaced by an appreciation for the quiet moments between the notes, the pauses that give a story its meaning. The great song has ended, but the world it created is now a symphony of a million smaller tunes, each one unique, each one precious. The epic of the deities has been retired, and the age of human heroes, the age of our own stories, has quietly, hopefully, begun. The rest now is a silence filled with listening.